Monthly meeting of the Stratford Town Council to order. The agenda's in your package. I'd like to welcome everyone, both here. I know our MLA-elect is here, former Councillor Jill Burridge, and welcome, Jill. Thank you for coming. And we also have a couple of members of our development community here, Trevor and Corey. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks everybody for watching online, anybody that's watching online as well. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the land upon which we gather is the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and we pay our respects to the Indigenous Mi'kmaq people of this territory, past, present, and future. I'd like to move to item number 2 now, a declaration of conflict of interest. If there's any item on the agenda tonight with which any member of council or any staff member has a conflict, please declare so now.
I have, Your Worship, on 12D and G and H.
Okay. You'll recuse yourself?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So, anyone else? If not, we'll move to approval of the agenda.
So, Mr. Mayor, with respect to the approval of the agenda, I just want to propose a small change, if possible. So currently, we have a number of items for discussion under item number 12, which is planning, development, and heritage. There are some items which are going to require some time and certainly some attention from us. What I'm asking, if it is okay with everybody, if we move item number 12 to item number 9, if possible, to proceed safety services, and then move safety services to item number 12, if that's possible.
Sure. Yeah, we usually have safety services up near the top because of the RCMP. I like to get them back out, but in this case, we will, if everybody's okay with that, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Councillor Jackson, thank you.
Second.
Yeah.
Second.
Yep.
Deputy Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Okay, the minutes of our meeting of March the 8th and our special council meeting of March 22nd are in your package. Any errors or omissions in either set of those minutes? Anything anyone would notices that needs to be changed, added, or deleted? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of those 2 sets of minutes.
Your Worship, just
Oh, sorry.
in relation to 4B, I think we had moved that meeting to March 21st from the 22nd. Maybe the minutes reflect it now. Yeah. I think it was the 21st we held that meeting on.
We had the Committee of the Whole on March 21st, and I have my notes say 22nd, March 22nd. Does anyone, could we corroborate that? It was March 22nd? Yeah, we did move the special, we moved the Committee of the Whole to the day before, so it was actually the Committee of the Whole that moved. Okay. Any other additions or deletions or changes to the minutes? If not, Councillor McDonald, you were prepared to move the minutes?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll second, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Okay, any presentations from the floor? Jeremy? No. Okay, if not, we'll go to my report. It's in your package. I'll, in the interest of time, I'll be quick. I guess a couple of highlights. I had the pleasure of welcoming the Easter Seals ambassadors, Megan and Caitlin, this morning at Rogers at the Stratford Elementary and Glen Stewart School. That's always a pleasant duty, and really enjoyed that. It was great to see the kids, and they presented checks, substantial checks to the Easter Seals campaign from both schools. And other than that, we have been busy over the last month, council and myself and staff looking at the new planning approach, looking at form-based codes, and we had a couple of meetings. We had a virtual meeting with a Halifax counselor and an HRM planner to discuss their experience with the approach. I know staff have been checking with other municipalities as well. It's all part of our due diligence on this file. And just for those listening, I guess the Coles Notes version is that we replace development agreements with a stringent, rigorous set of standards that are required for every development, a checklist. I think we had about 4 pages in some of the examples we were looking at, 4 pages of items that need to be met in order for the development to proceed. So there was a lot of work done on that over the past month. Welcome, Councillor Cox. Thanks for coming. And I also took in a demonstration of the Water's Cool program, which is delivered to grade 5 students in Stratford, and this year in Charlottetown as well. A number of classes in Charlottetown also took part in it. And it's a partnership between the town and Stratford Area Watershed Improvement Group. It's very impressive. It's something that I think showed a lot of creativity and initiative on the part of staff, and it was really, it's actually the kind of thing that is good for the town, and it's good for the kids. It's good for everyone involved because it saves, it conserves water, which saves us money on the need to have that amount of water, and it also is really important to learn those habits early in life. So that was really impressive. And
That was educational too. I couldn't believe there's 250 watersheds on PEI.
yeah,
250, I couldn't believe it.
yeah, and there's an awful lot of kids that go through that program as
Yeah.
well. There's,
Yeah.
you know, and it does have an impact. We just on our water consumption alone, we estimated 200 cubic meters per quarter, I believe it was, for per resident, and it ended up being 166, which is good. It saved us, you know, that amount of water per household, so that's really good. And also, Youth Center had an open house. Deputy Mayor Gallant and myself were there, along with staff. Excellent program delivered by Dwayne Pino and Jeremy Pierce. Just want to compliment them on that program. That's excellent. And 2 new businesses were welcomed, Anthony Deloder Real Estate and Alignment Dance Studio, both very impressive businesses. The real estate company has a multimedia studio where they produce their media advertisements and that sort of thing, and the dance studio has an upstairs and a downstairs, very large dance floors, and they offer a lot of programs, and I guess it's very successful. So
Yeah.
really glad to have those 2 businesses in town. So those are my, that's my report. Any comments or questions on my report? If not, we'll move to Chief Administrative Officer report. I'll ask CAO Crosby to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. My report is in your package. I have a few highlights, and then I'll answer any questions. Attended a meeting on the sustainable procurement plan that we have. It's going to be a guiding document for staff to help us make more sustainable decisions in our purchasing and how we move forward. So we will have that guiding document, and we'll be updating our procurement policy with that document in the future. Attended a briefing on the town's greenhouse gas emission progress. We've met our targets, and we're now setting new targets, so we're ahead of where we were planning to be, and we do have a student from the Sustainable Engineering Program with us now that he's working away at updating our community energy plan along with the updated reduction targets, so really happy to have him. He's a very smart student. So attended a community campus civil works update, and civil works are now out to tender, which really glad to see that we're moving forward with the community campus road, and it's a start of a lot of good things to happen there. Attended a meeting with representatives from ACOA, Atlantic Canada Opportunity Agency, regarding our funding for the waterfront development, which really excited to see that that's finally moving forward. We do have some other funding that we're going to have announced from the province hopefully soon, but that was a big piece to get that nailed down, and CADC are working with us to get that tender ready to go as soon as possible. And attended a special meeting of council to pass the budget. That was a large document we worked on all of March, and right from really November to March, and our Director of Finance is on vacation now, and well-deserved, so hope that they're enjoying themselves. And conducted interviews for the planning position clerk, and we do have someone in mind for that, and we're currently in discussions with them, so hope to have them in place very soon. And completed the annual staff evaluations. Those were all completed, and I also did a lot of collaborating with the planning department with regard to the Crossroads development, so looking forward to that moving forward tonight also. So it was a busy month. There's a lot of other meetings on there, but if willing to answer any questions or anybody has any comments.
Busy month.
Yeah. No questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, we'll now move to our new item number 9, Planning Development Heritage. I'll ask the chair of that committee, Councillor Jeff McDonald, to give his report, and I believe you have a few resolutions.
We do.
Councillor McDonald.
We do. Good evening, everyone. So in terms of the report, we do not have the minutes available quite yet from our April 3rd Planning Board meeting. Certainly our staff here at the town, it would be fair to say, were incredibly occupied in getting the resolutions drafted, and I would certainly want to commend the excellent work that our planning staff and in general our town staff has done over the last, certainly over the last month, but that would be the metaphorical tip of the iceberg when we're looking at the amount of work that our staff has undertaken over the last, frankly, years to get to the point where some of the items that we're discussing tonight will hopefully be brought to fruition. I will go through the regular items, and we do have some resolutions for your consideration as well. I will begin with the monthly building permit summary. That's item number currently 9B. It certainly shows some early promise in terms of seeing some new development happening. There's a commercial fit up of $500,000, some accessory structures, but also I would suggest as well, great to see some semi-detached development happening, as well as some single-family homes. So it's early in the year, certainly, but it's not. It's a good sign of things to come for development in the town this year. It's great to see new residents still continuing to choose Stratford as a place to live. It's great to see developers still choosing to invest in Stratford. Currently, for the month of March, we have just under $5 million in total development. So certainly that's always an encouraging sign. And we look forward to things increasing in the months to come. Do I have any questions or any discussion that anybody wants to have about the monthly building permit summary for March of 2023? Not hearing anything, that's just presented for your information, and certainly I always commend the staff for compiling these statistics in a timely fashion. Moving to item number 9C, which is our first resolution of the evening. This is resolution PH 005-2023, being an application from Peter McDonald to construct an accessory building within the front yard located at 42 Owen Lane. This resolution is being moved by myself as chair of planning. I wonder if we could have a seconder at this time.
I can second.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Deputy. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from Peter McDonald to place an accessory building being a private garage which is detached within the front yard of their heritage property on parcel number 329565 located at 42 Owen Lane. And whereas in accordance with section 8.1.1, accessory buildings and structures shall be permitted on any lot but shall not be located within the front yard or flanking side yard of a lot. Whereas notwithstanding subsection B above, council may issue a development permit for an accessory use, building, or structure located within the front yard or flanking side yard of a lot, where the town is satisfied the structure includes building design components such as building material, scale, and form are consistent with surrounding development. And whereas the layout of the existing buildings and structures on this particular lot are designed to optimize the view of the water from the property. Applications for accessory buildings within the front yard are common along waterfront properties and have less of an impact on surrounding development, as neighbors are often protective of waterfront views. In addition, one of the existing buildings on the property, being a heritage barn, is already located within the front yard. The surrounding development also encompasses a property at 46 Owen Lane that appears to have an existing accessory building located within the front yard. Therefore, the application is consistent with the area. And whereas the salt box design of the proposed building includes a 10-12 pitch on one side to match the steep roof of the main building, as well as a 5-12 pitch to complement the 1.5-story lean-to that faces Owen Lane. For these reasons, as well as proximity to the driveway for the storage of vehicles, the applicant is requesting approval from the town to place their private garage, which is detached within an area that is consistent with what is already established within the neighborhood. And be it resolved that approval be granted to an application from Peter McDonald to place an accessory building, a private garage, which is detached within the front yard of the property on parcel number 329-565, located at 42 Owen Lane. And this resolution does bear the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on April the 3rd, 2023.
Okay, so that motion's been moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gallant. Discussion.
So in terms of, just to keep everybody apprised as what the discussions were, because we didn't have the minutes from our planning meeting, what the discussion was centered around was a couple of features that are present within this property specifically. Owen Lane is a so-called cottage development. Certainly it's a waterfront development. It's not one of our main traveled roads. The building in question, when you're looking at the photograph here, would essentially be placed where the mouse essentially is right now, essentially forming a continuous line of the roof pitch with the main structure, which is the black roofed and white-sided building in the back, that and present here in this photograph. When you look at the building plans, you'll note that it is of a similar character to the main structure with respect to the roof pitch. Certainly, there are some attempts, from what I understand as well, to tie it into the heritage barn, understanding, of course, that it being a heritage structure, it is going to be of a different vintage at any point in time than the new construction. However, certainly efforts have been taken, it would appear, in terms of the building materials and its design and its placement to provide harmony with the existing structures, and importantly such that it would not impair or impede anybody's enjoyment of their waterfront views, and nor would it be, I would suggest, destructive of the overall streetscape. So those were some of the comments and some of the observations from the planning committee at our last meeting. Certainly, and those were reasons militating in favor of adopting the resolution. However, certainly open to questions at this time, appreciating and understanding that you did not have the benefit of the minutes for your review prior here to today.
Any discussion? Okay, ready for the question? Okay, call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll move on to our next resolution, which is PH 006-2023, being SD 002. You're in conflict on this one, Mr. Deputy? Yeah. Okay, thank you. This is Donald and Pam Newcomb's application at 41 Keppoch Road and Bicton Beat Crescent, a one-lot subdivision. This resolution is moved by myself as chair of the planning committee. I'm wondering if I could have a seconder at this point in time.
Usually it's seconded after it's read into the record.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can never remember what the process is on those. Okay, so I'll read it in and then ask for a seconder. And whereas an application has been received from Donald and Pam Newcomb to subdivide parcel number 328757, approximately 43,560 square feet in total area, into 2 single dwelling lots. The new lot, 2022-2, having access from Picton Beat Crescent, and the remaining lot, 2022-1, maintaining frontage on the Keppoch Road. Whereas the new lot will exceed the minimum bylaw requirement of 22 meters, or 22 feet of frontage and 70 square meters in area, and will be serviced by both municipal sewer and water. The remaining lands will maintain the existing frontage exceeding the minimum bylaw requirement of 22 meters and 70 square meters in area, and is currently as well serviced by both municipal sewer and water. And whereas in accordance with section 4.4, changes to existing lots of our zoning and development bylaw, reading as follows: 4.4.1, no person shall reduce the dimensions or change the use of any lot in an lot. It is of a view, I think, to simply realize upon the property that's not being used. There was an interesting discussion about, I'm not sure, Sarah, is that you? Could you move back up, Sarah, just for a quick second? You'll note here that there is a small area which was owned by the town, which I understand had been purchased and now is being included as part of that secondary lot. And it's in that area that the new driveway access would be from Picton Beat Crescent for the new proposed lot. Excuse me. Certainly, I think it seems that it would be beneficial as well to encourage more development, to maximize the best use of the land in question. There being no concerns. Sorry, Sarah, and maybe you can move down now to show, and this is a preliminary showing of drainage. It would appear that there is not going to be any issues surrounding any negative impact in terms of storm runoff to any of the other residences or properties surrounding the proposed subdivision. The proposed development is there to show the increase in impermeable surfaces, and even with those taken into account, it's been signed off on by the surveyors as well as the engineers who have looked at this. So certainly, to my untrained eye, that it appears appropriate. However, I'll open it to the floor if there's any discussion that wants to be had on the matter.
Any comments or discussion? Okay, you ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to agenda item E. This is Town of Stratford Resolution PH 007-2023, being number SD 006-23. The Town of Stratford Subdivision Concept Plan, Community Campus. And it reads as follows: whereas an application has been received from the Town of Stratford to subdivide parcel numbers 1137884 and 1137892, being 69.96 hectares, into 3 lots within the Public Service Industrial Zone and 5 lots within the Industrial Zone, located off Hollis Avenue, with the second access off the Bunbury Road, and a third connection to Mason Road once the property to the southeast is developed. And whereas the purpose of the community campus plan was to develop a site whose form and function would facilitate a public space with all elements and amenities laid out in accordance with the relationship to one another. The campus would be able to grow over time and adapt to changes in philosophies of work, education, and recreation as they emerge to become the heart of civic life in Stratford. And whereas the long-term vision for the community campus was unveiled at a public meeting in 2018, with further engagement conducted in 2019, by the Community Campus Planning Committee. The consultant, Upland Planning and Design, was enlisted to further engage residents and establish a community vision, including schools, recreation and cultural facilities, active transportation networks, sports fields, and additional community development space on 170 acres of land purchased by the town. The resolution, being CC 001-2022, was passed by Council on May 11th, 2022, adopting the Community Campus Master Plan as prepared by Upland Planning and Design. Whereas in accordance with Section 1.5.1, the authority of the Development Officer of the Town of Stratford, Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, a development officer shall have the authority to approve or deny applications made in accordance with this bylaw in all areas except for preliminary approval of subdivisions of greater than 5 lots, or where the extension of water mains, sewer mains, or streets is required. And whereas the subdivision application includes 8 total lots and the extension of water mains, sewer mains, and streets per the development scheme, the application has been reviewed in accordance with the bylaw. All uses as noted are permitted within the public service industrial zone, and each proposed lot meets the minimum lot standards per section 17.1.4. Whereas as part of the application, servicing, stormwater management, erosion, and sedimentation control plans, as well as a traffic impact statement have been prepared. The appropriate plans have been circulated to the Stratford Utility Corporation, Department of Transportation, and Department of Environment for comment. And whereas the development scheme shows the parkland dedication which exceeds 10%, and the plan will be updated to accurately reflect the area to be shown as parkland, excluding the area for stormwater management in accordance with Section 4.9 of the bylaw. Be it resolved that preliminary approval be granted to an application from the Town of Stratford to subdivide parcel numbers 1137884 and 1137892, being 69.96 hectares or 172.98 acres in total area, into 3 lots within the public service industrial zone and 5 lots within the industrial zone located off Hollis Avenue with a second access off the Bunbury Road and a third connection to Mason Road, subject to the following conditions. 1, conformance with the development scheme showing the Town of Stratford Community Campus prepared by CBCL Limited, being drawing number 222617, dated March 14th of 2023. That the developer executes a subdivision agreement with the Town of Stratford in accordance with Section 4.12 of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45. That a stormwater management plan be designed by a licensed engineer using low-impact development guidelines approved by both DOTIE and the Town of Stratford. That the proposed parkland area as shown on the development scheme be deeded to the Town of Stratford as parkland dedication exceeding 10%, excluding the area for stormwater management pursuant to Section 4.9. That the concept design must meet all the Department of Environment requirements, and a plan must be prepared showing how erosion and sedimentation will be controlled and contained during construction. That proposed public roads shall be designed in accordance with the provincial road standards of the PEI Department of Transportation, Infrastructure and Energy, and that a subdivision road agreement shall be executed. That the sewer and water systems shall be designed in accordance with the Stratford Utility Corporation servicing standards, and that a utility agreement shall be executed along with the payment of all applicable capital contribution fees required by the utility corporation. That the developer makes an agreement with Canada Post and meets Canada Post requirements for establishing community mailboxes and new subdivisions. That all other relative provisions of the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45 are met, and that preliminary approval shall be valid for a period of 3 years. And this resolution does bear the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on April the 3rd, 2023. So I call for a seconder at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Jackson, thank you. Just a slight correction. It's public service institutional zone are the 3 lots, and the other 5 are within the industrial zone.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, what did I say?
That's okay. It was just a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Apologize.
okay. So we got a moved resolution and a seconder. Discussion. Any comments? This basically allows the Town of Stratford to proceed with the development of the community campus. This rezoning is required from the current zoning in order to take all the action that's required to develop that property. So this is another step along the way to developing our community campus. So really pleased to see this moving along.
Absolutely. Yes, so Mr. Mayor, again, understanding, of course, everyone, that you don't have the benefit of the minutes. We did have an excellent discussion at our planning and development meeting about the site in question. Certainly, we had a lot of discussions about how it's going to look and why we're doing this. Certainly, it's to reconfigure a lot of the lots. Yes, Sarah, I wonder if you could move up a little bit and zoom in. So this gives you a good idea as to why the new subdivision and what the proposed zoning is going to do. I think what's important to note is the new access streets proposed, which you see off of the Bunbury Road, which you'll see off Hollis, as well as it's currently called Street B, but that's going to be a new connector road. And what you're seeing here is towards the bottom of the page, the two shaded blue zones, those are proposed school zones where our high school and likely, well, not likely, but hopefully at least a junior high might go at one point in time. The green shaded zones are going to be our proposed new green space, which is exciting to see, certainly, I think, for the surrounding neighborhoods. And then towards the right of this drawing, you're going to see some of our new industrial zones, which is the expansion of the industrial park, which leads off of Hollis Avenue. So I think this was a very good sketch for me to appreciate and visualize what this new zoning is going to accomplish and what it's going to look like. And as Mayor Ogden noted, it's going to help guide the development, and it's going to help shape the development as to how things are going to be built and where things are going to go. Also important, I think, to take into account is item number 12E6, or I guess now 9E6, which is the traffic impact statement. It does appear that there's been a lot of thought put into this document. It certainly would appear that there's a large number of trips that are absolutely going to be generated, but nothing as such which would dramatically cause undue hardship to the motoring public getting into and out of these proposed new zones. There currently, as we all appreciate and can understand, ultimately the design of the roads will be a joint exercise, I think, between the town and the province. That will be ongoing, there can be no doubt, but it's exciting to see that work is getting underway on something. Again, this is a long gestating project, as noted in the resolution. There's been an incredible amount of work done to get us to this point, at least, and certainly we're by no stretch finished of the project, but it's exciting to see a lot of progress being made, and this resolution, I would suggest, is really going to help set in motion a lot of things, a lot of development that's going to occur, I would expect, over the next foreseeable future.
Any comments or questions?
I'm just glad we're at this point, and I know as a former current councillor last term, all the work we've done with the former councillors. She's only here tonight, she recognizes all the work and come to this point, and especially you think about Robert Hughes, you think of all the staff and everything else, and to get this point, Jeremy Crosby, the two Jeremys, and all the work they put behind it. It was great. It's exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot of analysis, there's a lot of back work or work that's in the background that people don't see that went into this document and went into this resolution.
Yeah.
I think Councillor McDonald, the planning staff, CAO, Director of Recreation, everybody on council and previous councils, especially as Deputy Mayor Gallant mentioned, our MLA-elect Jill Burridge was a leader on this file, and really a lot of the credit goes to her for what we're able to do here. So it's great to have her in the room. Yeah, so there's a lot of work went into this, and it's a culmination it's another step along the way to getting our community campus developed.
Yep.
So with that, any other comments or questions? Okay, I call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Thank you. That was a big one.
Thank you. Certainly, again, just to slightly repeat what everyone's been saying, This is one of those resolutions that really does bring the entire town departments together, from CAO, from culture, from recreation, from planning, from infrastructure, absolutely from safety services. It really is, this one especially, one that the whole town and its staff and its citizens and its council has been engaged in, not just this council, but prior councils, and certainly it's very exciting to see. And I mean, it's trite to say, but schools are absolutely the future of any community, and to see work being done to encourage that development, encouraging to see our young people remaining here in Stratford and getting their education here is absolutely, you know, as a father of young children, I can say without a doubt, it's very exciting. Move on to item 9F, Resolution PH 008-2023, being a new street name proposed for civic addressing issue. Proposed name is Bornish Stone Lane. It is moved by myself, and it reads as follows. Whereas the town has received an application for a third dwelling accessed by a private driveway off the Bellevue Road, as per Section 3 of the Emergency 911 Act, once more than 2 civic addresses are accessed off the same driveway, the driveway must be converted to a private road and named so that it is easily located in case of an emergency. And whereas the private driveway off Bellevue Road is used to access civic numbers 42 and 44, and now PID 864322, and whereas the property owners that will be affected have been contacted regarding the civic address change and requested to submit road name suggestions for consideration by the town's Heritage Subcommittee no later than Monday, February the 27th, 2023. And will also be sent an additional notification letter before the change is implemented. And whereas one request has been received to name the private road and has been recommended by the Heritage Subcommittee, being Bornish Stone Lane, after the property owner's family place in Scotland, be it resolved that approval be granted to the following street name for the private road off Bellevue Road to access PIDs 1105998, 823203, and 864322 to Bornish Stone Lane. This resolution does bear the recommendation of the Planning and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on April 3rd, 2023.
A seconder for that? Thank you. Councillor Cox. Okay, any discussion?
So, thank you, Sarah, for pulling this up. This shows the properties affected. To the north of this map, you'll see that that is Bellevue Road, and that's where the access to the road is. To the south, I think that is the Keppick Road. To the south here, you'll see that there's somewhat of a very informal dirt road access, it would appear, leading to the back of one of the properties. This is going to attempt to remedy that so that there is going to be a formal defined access, and you'll see this somewhat snake-like pattern of that road. That will be the new proposed Bornish Stone Lane. Certainly, as a McDonald, it's a name that I certainly can appreciate. Bornish was the name of my great-grandfather, so I think it's appropriate considering the heritage of the residents there. I think it's keeping in character with the names of streets in a similar situation. I think it's a nod towards the property owners now, and certainly would not be out of place going forward. So certainly those are my comments, but absolutely welcome your discussion on the matter.
Any other comments? Okay, if not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving now to Resolution PH 009-2023, being RZ 002-22, being Concord Properties Limited, the Grey Group, the Urban Core Area Plan, being a bylaw amendment to our zoning and development bylaw number 45. This is the second reading of this proposed change to the bylaw. It is moved by myself. It reads as follows. Whereas an application has been received from Concord Properties Limited, the Grey Group, for the Crossroads Urban Core Area Plan, requesting an amendment to the Town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, being text and map, and whereas the proposed amendment will require change to the zoning map to add 2 new zone classifications and changes to the text for the addition of the 2 new mixed-use zones, as well as adjustments to parking requirements and development officer authority to support the implementation of the Crossroads Urban Core Area Plan. And whereas the proposed zone classifications to be inserted in the bylaw are the core mixed-use zone and the urban core zone, whereby both zones permit buildings with commercial uses on the first floor and residential units, being rentals or condos on the remaining floors, and whereby the urban core zone uniquely does not permit standalone commercial to maximize residential density in the area. Proposed heights in the CMU zone are up to 25 meters, and in the UC zone of up to 37 meters. And whereas to accommodate the two zones, reduced parking provisions will be required and will include the provision of a percentage of underground versus surface parking for buildings exceeding 13 meters in height. And whereas the proposed amendment will require changes to the development officer authority to permit approval of development applications via site plan approval process in accordance with newly established built form requirements as outlined within the two new zone sections to streamline the development application process. And whereas in accordance with the Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, planning staff circulated written notices, 280 letters sent on November 3rd of the amendment request to all property owners within 150 meters of the boundaries of the subject property or properties, and placed multiple signs on the land being proposed for rezoning, indicating that a rezoning request has been received. And whereas planning staff received 53 response letters from residents with various concerns around shadow casting, infrastructure, environmental, and general concerns. And whereas in accordance with the Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, an advertisement was placed in the Guardian newspaper on 2 occasions, being November the 9th and November the 19th, 2022. And a media ad was also shared on the town's website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the town's weekly e-news to notify residents of a public meeting and to solicit input from residents on the proposed amendment request. And whereas a public meeting was held on November the 23rd, 2022, at the Stratford Town Center with approximately 73 people in attendance, whereby the Director of Planning introduced the application from the Grey Group, explaining the proposed amendment requests and the requirement for both text and map amendments to the Stratford Official Plan and Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45. And whereas representatives of the Grey Group, being Corey Gray, the CEO and Chairman of the Board, and Trevor McLeod, being the President, presented a video of the Crossroads Urban Core Area Plan proposed for the Stratford Core Area. And whereas Trevor McLeod introduced the Grey Group's consultants, Rob LeBlanc and Roger Boychuk from Fathom Studios, and referenced members of CBCL Limited and members of the Provincial Transportation Department, and presented details of the proposed development plan to the audience. And whereas during and after the presentations from Trevor, Rob, and Roger, the floor was open to a question and answer period, whereby the developer responded to questions from the audience. Be it resolved that bylaw number 45M, a bylaw to amend the town of Stratford Zoning and Development Bylaw number 45, be hereby read and approved a second time. The details of the proposed amendments are as follows, and I will get into those. It is a resolution that bears the recommendation of the Planning, Development, and Heritage Committee. Now,
Could we get a seconder for that? Thank you.
a call for a seconder. Now,
Oh, sorry.
No, we need the seconder, Mr. Mayor, but what I wanted to say was, just in terms of how to proceed at this point in time, under the Municipal Government Act, it is a requirement that if there are any changes between the first and second reading of a bylaw, that all of those proposed amendments be read into the record in its entirety. I do propose to do so, to conform with the Municipal Government Act. But before doing so, I am going to call on our current acting Director of Planning, Mr. Dale McKeegan. He is going to present a brief overview of some of those proposed amendments between the first and second reading, and some of the process that the town has undertook in soliciting input and making those changes or those amendments between the first and second reading. So I would call on Mr. McKeegan at this time, and we'll hear from him.
Thank you, Councilor McDonald. So what I'm going to go through here is just the process that's happened the last month to give you some background leading up to the second reading. So on the first reading of March 8th, there was a number of concerns addressed at that point in time, and Councilor McDonald mentioned those with the building heights and the shadow casting and the environmental concerns and things like that. So in saying that, after that discussion, we had numerous meetings of staff, with CAO, talking about those concerns and other issues. So we talked about, again, the building heights, shadow casting along Shakespeare Drive, development on the edges in the 2 new zones to ensure compatibility with existing development. The addition of individual diagrams and schedules to address building standards, being heights, setbacks, street walls, step backs, and et cetera. Discussed consistencies with the standards for the 2 new zones, pedestrian movement connectivity throughout the 2 new zones. Talked about green spaces. We looked at landscaping and overall site functioning, stormwater management, surface water runoff, siltation mitigation measures, and detention ponds. So there was a lot of discussion in-house over the last month about all the different facets and different development elements that were going on within this proposal. We also met with the developers just over a month ago, planning staff and CAO, to talk about the additional time that was needed to move forward to capture the essence of this development in order to make sure we were entirely prepared for this evening, the second reading. So when we met the developers, they had a good discussion with us, and we agreed that we'd move forward, giving us an extra month time to make sure we captured everything. That being said, we then met with the consultant, Rob LeBlanc, on the above items that I just mentioned a while ago. And at that meeting, the consultant agreed to lower the building heights along Shakespeare Drive in response to concerns, agreed to provide compatible development on the edges where possible, agreed to provide diagrams and schedules to address building standards, heights, setbacks, street walls, and step backs, etc. Agreed to housekeeping changes for consistency, agreed to upgrade pedestrian movement connectivity, overall site functioning will be addressed at the site plan review stage, and stormwater management and surface runoff, siltation mitigation measures, and detention ponds will be addressed in the second reading by way of amendment this evening. We also had 2 information sessions over the last month with planning board staff and council. And the reason was to have some good hearty discussion on a lot of these items and any concerns that they may have, and also any concerns that were discussed by the residents. And this was to provide council with a better understanding of the difference between form-based codes versus conventional zoning, which we've all operated under for years. The form-based codes is more of an urban form type methodology that looks at a checklist and site plan analysis and also approval. So, and as Sarah's showing you on the diagrams here, there was a number of diagrams provided as well that give us not only the standards, but show them in graphic form, which is always nice to see and use because it makes it more relevant and gives it better context. But we also talked about the ground floor commercial, and that again will be addressed in the second reading by Councillor McDonald. We discussed hotels in the CMU zone, and again, they'll be addressed as well in the second reading. We discussed the no standalone commercial in the UC zone. Again, that'll be addressed this evening at in the second reading. Talked about the Development Officer Authority and site plan approval process, how that functions, and the need for an amendment to the current bylaw to enable that. One note that we made at that meeting was that if council at any point in time is dissatisfied with how things are proceeding under the form-based codes, they have a right to discuss it further and make any adjustments if necessary. So the April 5th meeting as well was also very helpful, and it gave us some more certainty where we didn't have it originally. And I think that going forward, in tonight's reading of the second reading, we will have a better understanding of all the elements going forward that were causing us some concern previously in the first reading and before that. So I found the second reading very beneficial. And as the mayor mentioned, we had the Zoom meeting with the Halifax councillors and the planner there, and they really strongly showed us that the benefits of the the form-based codes and how they utilize them there, and the differences made in the process, differences made for them in their workload, also the differences made for the developers coming forward, whereby they're not getting into development agreements and the long process of public meetings and that form of thing. Once this form-based codes and the two new zones are approved, then it's basically enables us as the planning staff to go forward with a checklist, and as long as the checklist is met, we can issue the approval, So that's what's occurred in the last month. It's been busy, and it's been very helpful and very beneficial going forward, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Dale. So at this point in time, prior to our discussion on the adoption or moving this to the next step, in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, it is a requirement that we read into the record the proposed changes. So buckle up. There's a bit to do, but certainly I think this exercise and this process will really help highlight what Dale has explained about, and it shows you some of the internal workings as to how we're moving this along and some of the evolution of the text. And during the discussion, I expect we'll have some comments and some discussion around why we did what we did and how, and from our perspective at least, how it makes for a more workable document for everybody. So I'll begin at the beginning, and under section 1.5.1, which is the authority of the development officer. From the previous first reading, it read as follows: notwithstanding the above, a development officer shall have the authority to approve or deny applications in the core mixed-use zone and urban core zone in accordance with the site plan approval process in this bylaw. It now reads as follows: notwithstanding section 1.5.1 above, a development officer shall have the authority to approve or deny development applications in the core mixed-use zone and urban core zone in accordance with section 7.6, being a site plan approval process in this bylaw, excluding developments which require preliminary approval of subdivisions of greater than 5 lots, or where the extension of water mains, sewer mains, or streets is required. Next change is page 3, and this is under site plan approval process, 7.6.1E, and this is added to the second reading. It is now a requirement that there be a detailed erosion and sedimentation plan shall be prepared, showing how erosion and sedimentation will be controlled and contained during construction. Next change is located at page 5. This is the site plan approval process flow chart. From the previous reading, we were allowing for 14 days. The current reading is now a 21-day appeal period. I'll hold off on discussion for now, and then if there are issues, we can certainly discuss those. Next change is under section 16 at page 6. There was, under the first reading, all uses in the core mixed use and urban core zones, no parking requirements. That is changed as follows: for all uses in the CMU and UC zones, 0.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit, 3 parking spaces per 93 square meters or 1,000 square feet of commercial or office space, and 0.75 parking spaces per guest room. Next change is under permitted uses at page 7, 12.4.2, subsection 17, hotels including lots abutting R1 and R2. And so it should state, and I should have read the first, no building or part thereof and no land shall be used for purposes other than hotels excluding lots abutting R1 and R2. Next change is at page 8, under multi-unit and mixed use. Minimum lot area from the previous reading, it was 1,000 square meters. It is now 2,000 square meters for a multi-unit and mixed use development. Next change, page 11, under 12.4.11, CMU zone parking exemptions. This has been removed for the second reading. As per section 10.1 of this bylaw, there are no parking minimums in the CMU zone, but all other dimensional parking requirements apply. Next change, this is under 12.4.16 at page 14. This is the street types diagram for the CMU zone on the roads. From the first reading, it stated for buildings less than 12 meters high, no less than 50% parking is underground. To the second reading, for buildings greater than, less than 13 meters high, no less than 50% parking is underground.
I believe that's greater than, isn't it?
Greater, I always get that backwards, thank you, Mr. Mayor, greater than. Next change, page 15, 12.5.5, lot requirements. Previous reading was 1,000 square meters, and this is now changed to 2,000 square meters, and this is in the UC zone. Next change to page 16, commercial uses. From the first reading, it read as no less than 30% of the ground floor. It now reads as no less than 50% of the ground floor. From the previous reading, it read as standalone commercial buildings are not permitted in the UC zone. The current reading is standalone commercial buildings are not permitted in the UC zone unless approved by council. Next change is at page 19, which is item 12.5.11B. This is removed. As per section 10.1 of this bylaw, there are no parking minimums in the CMU zone, but all other dimensional parking requirements apply. Next change is at page 22. This is the street types for the UC zone. We've added this to the second reading to conform with the actual textual definition, which reads no less than 50% ground floor commercial uses. From then page 23, this is a change to our building heights in map form. You'll see on the first reading, in certain areas in the CMU zone, they were 19 stories maximum. They've now been updated and amended to read certain portions of the UC zone are now 20-story maximums. As well, certain areas are removed as those parcels are not being rezoned under the new proposed bylaw amendments. Then at page 24, the map changes. This shows the areas in red being removed from street wall setbacks as these parcels are not being rezoned. Next mapping shows again areas in red removed from street wall heights as parcels are not being rezoned. Page 25, map changes from the first reading to the second reading. Again, areas in red are removed from the street type schedule as they are not being rezoned. The existing core area design standards will ensure continuation of curbs and gutters and sidewalks on at least one side of the street. Page 29, section 19 is added in its entirety to describe and clarify zoning map changes identified in figure 1. Appendix A, Town of Stratford zoning map of the Town of Stratford zoning development number 545 is amended by the following. Zoning of a portion of PID 190090 indicated as parcel 1 on figure 1 shall be urban core, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of town center residential. The zoning of portions of PIDs 328039, 190090, and 882084 indicated as parcel 2 on figure 1 shall be urban core, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of town center mixed use. The zoning of portions of PID 328039 and PID 882084 indicated as parcel 3 on figure 1 shall be urban core, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of town center commercial. The zoning of portions of PID 328039 and PID 190090 indicated as parcel 4 on figure 1 shall be core mixed use, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of highway commercial. The zoning of a portion of PID 328039 indicated as parcel 5 on figure 1 shall be core mixed use, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of general commercial. The zoning of a portion of PID 328039 indicated as parcel 6 on figure 1 shall be core mixed use, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of town center mixed use. The zoning of a portion of PID 882084 indicated as parcel 7 on figure 1 shall be core mixed use, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of town center residential. The zoning of a portion of PID 897124 indicated as parcel 8 on figure 1 shall be core mixed use, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of town center mixed use. The zoning of a portion of PID 897124 indicated as parcel 9 on figure 1 shall be core mixed use, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of low-density residential. The zoning of a portion PID 328039 and PID 882084 indicated as parcel 10 on figure 1 shall be core mixed use, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of town center commercial. The zoning of a portion of PID 328039 and PID 882084 indicated as parcel 11 on figure 1 shall be core mixed use, hereby excluding it from its former zoning of town center commercial. Page 30, you're going to find a map added to describe the various parcels, being parcel 1 to parcel 10. The area shaded in, I'm going to suggest pink or some form of red, is our new or urban core, and the areas in that nice shade of blue are our no core mixed use. And those would be the changes from the first reading towards the second reading, and that's in conformance with the Municipal Government Act.
Could I just ask for clarification on map 12.1? 20 meters, not 20 stories.
Did I say stories? Yes. Thank you. Meters. Not 20 stories. No, we're not. We're ambitious, but we're not that ambitious. No, thank you. Yeah.
Just one other minor correction too, on section 16, it says from previous first reading to current, it should say second reading, instead of just a minor typo there, but we may as well correct it now.
And that's section 16?
Yep.
What page, sorry?
I don't have the page number, but
Okay.
Just after the site plan approval process, Chair.
it's only a minor change,
Oh,
but
okay, all right.
just change in the text, that's all.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yes, that should be the second reading. Thank you, CAO Crosby.
So we have a motion that's been moved and seconded, and we've had a presentation on the changes from first reading to second reading. Any comments or discussion?
I have a quick comment there. Just, I guess in layman's terms, there's a lot to decipher. I guess, Dale, the question to you, we met with Rob when he came over, Rob Blanc came over, and we've had multiple meetings, but I think it's the land section 882084, I'm guessing, I think that's close here, but we talked about the switch of a 5-story and 12-story. So in essence, I guess that has taken place.
Yes, when you look at the chart, pull it up there, sorry, not mine.
I guess just for clarity, if some people are watching, because there was 53 people on the petition, and they may not totally understand all the jargon here, that
Right.
may help to clarify that.
You're correct. Sarah's cursor shows the section along Shakespeare Drive,
Yeah,
and it's gone down considerably from a 12-story down to a 6-story. And that's pretty much in comparison across the street, because the buildings that are there are elevated to almost a story, plus they have 3 stories on top, so that's a 4-story. So it's a better balance of 4 to 6 as opposed to 4 to 12 ratio.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we asked for, and I have to commend the great group for working with us with that, and we brought some concerns from obviously some of the residents of Stratford and the town also.
Correct.
And it was very, very quickly dealt with, and so I give them full props for that, so thank them very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dale.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I had some reservations, I think, at last meeting, but through all of the meetings with staff and having done some more research on it myself, I feel a lot more comfortable. Really appreciate the changes that have been put in since our last meeting. Great explanation, Sarah and Dale and everyone, staff. And thank the Grey Group for investing in our town. I know they have a track record of success, and I think for us here, my initial reservations were around the giving up kind of the decision-making with this form-based code type thing, but it's if you lay out clear rules, that's in fairness to the developers, and if they meet those, we have no reason not to approve. So I think leaving it in the hands of the experts in the planning department make a lot more sense than some of us that aren't planners and aren't engineers. So I think these changes are great, and I look forward to the future. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion?
I might just add, certainly, this is a very long road that this has taken. It certainly precedes my time here on council. In fact, from what I understand, after reviewing the history and literature of these lands and really of the town of Stratford itself, this has been part of Stratford's strategic vision for well over a decade now, with a view to the right development for a large amount of our town, which remains fairly undeveloped. And so it's exciting, and it's certainly one of those situations in which it's really a confluence of a number of things. It's the right time, it's the right location. The town has a good partner in the Gray Group in terms of its view and its vision for development. It's the right time in this province's and this municipality's history. It's really a moment, I would say, in Western development as well, in which we're seeing a lot of pressure in terms of the demand for housing. There was commissioned by Stantec, the Charlottetown Regional Growth Study, which shows that our, I think, municipal area covering Cornwall, Charlottetown, Stratford, is going to be, well, it's currently under enormous pressure, and those pressures are only going to increase. I would say that the secret is out about Prince Edward Island, and especially our, I think our capital region, that this is an excellent place to work and live and raise a family. And we're being inundated, I would suggest, with new residents. We have responsibility as a town to consider the highest and best use of our town lands. We have a responsibility to maintain affordability and attainability of housing stock. We have a responsibility as well, I would suggest, to create a variety of housing options. We also have a responsibility to consider densification in areas where it makes sense. We also have a responsibility on the same token to consider and to work towards preserving green spaces where it makes sense to do so. All of those imperatives and aspirations are really funneled into this proposed change. I would suggest that really this allows our town to grow in a dynamic and exciting way. It allows our residents to have a core downtown that they can be proud of, that they can enjoy living in and working in and recreating in. I would also suggest that when you look not just at the building design standards, which will promote quality and consistency, but also the street design standards, which are going to allow for greater access and greater transportation options. Certainly, we're fully considering appropriate sidewalks and active transportation paths, which is going to really assist our town grow and look toward a future where perhaps transportation is a little more mixed rather than single cars. All of which is to say, I really want to commend the prior councils who have worked on this. I want to commend the Gray Group for being a good partner. I really want to commend the citizens of this town for providing us with excellent input, for sharing their concerns with us, for sharing their aspirations of what our town needs to look like. All of which is to say, I think we're on the right path here. I really absolutely want to thank especially Sarah and Dale, who during my brief tenure here on council have been an enormous help. They've been incredibly patient with me in terms of educating me, in terms of planning, and in terms of some of the history on this, and from their superhuman efforts to get things turned around in a very brief period of time. So certainly, I think this town owes you a certain level of gratitude that I'm extending on behalf of the town. But those would be my comments as chair of the planning department. But of course, I welcome any other discussion at this point in time.
Anyone else want to comment?
Just very briefly, it was very well said. discussions on council and among residents as well. I'll just add that, this is a very, it's very unique to Prince Edward Island to have this type of development. And it provides Stratford with the unique opportunity to develop its downtown core, as it were, from the ground up, as opposed to having scattered type development and then trying to reconfigure down the road. This enables us to, as a community, to get it right the first time. And I think with all the consultation that we've had amongst residents and amongst the developer and consultants, and with the expert input from planning staff and our CAO, this is a very good development, and it's going to be very beneficial to our community in many ways, and a lot of which Councilman Powell has already spoken about, so I won't reiterate that. But I think this development in conjunction with our community campus, looking at it from a long vision perspective, is certainly going to change the dynamic of Stratford in a very positive way, and I do support this development.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, councilors. I think this is a real historic step forward for our town. This is, I think the town is very lucky to have such a great planning staff, developers, innovative and forward-thinking, a council that is willing to put in the time and the effort to understand and to really take the interests of residents to heart and really do their best to make sure that what we're deciding here tonight will be to the benefit of the town, and in fact will move the town forward. We're all very cognizant of the housing crisis that faces not only our town, but our province and our country. And the town has taken many steps, a couple of steps already with our Shape Stratford initiative, commissioning the study, the housing study we originally did it back in 2014, and then we did it again with Charlottetown and Cornwall just recently, which gave us a lot of information that really points out the fact we're going to be short a lot of housing units for population that are coming here, and it's a real crisis. It's something that's really important. We want to develop and we want to have a place for everyone in our town. As Councillor McDonald said, all income levels attainable for everyone. And so the Shape Stratford initiative is really remove some of the barriers to development. This move today, which we've looked at from all angles, other municipalities that have used it, planning staff have looked at it, and basically in a nutshell, it's replacing our current process with a rigorous, stringent set of standards that developers have to meet in order to get approved for development. And the experts, as Councillor McDonald says, the planning staff and the planning officer replaces the decision-making of council, but only if those specifications are met. And council does have the power to go back and make changes to the specifications if they're not working. And I think it really allows development to take place faster, but with a high standard of quality, and it really will move us, allow us, rather than wait for council meetings and take the politics out of it and move it into the realm of the experts and allow them to really fine-tune anything that needs to be changed or amended in the best interests of our residents and in the best interests of our town. So with that, unless there's anyone else that would like to comment, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone against? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Councillor McDonald. Thank you again to planning staff and to council and previous councils and all the work that was done by everyone involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing, kind of missed this point, and I want to show my appreciation for Kevin Reynolds, who is out on leave right now. But Kevin has been with the town quite a number of years and has worked very closely with the developers throughout this process. So he deserves to be acknowledged, and I appreciate Kevin, and thanks, Kevin.
So that was second reading. We'll now move to adoption. So it's still in your hands, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Dale, thank you for mentioning Kevin. Certainly, if there was ever any doubt, yes, he's been instrumental in this process, and so we certainly appreciate that. And I hope Kevin's listening right now, and certainly our thoughts are with him.
And Councillor McDonald, if I can just say one thing, I'd also like to thank Dale too, and the planning staff, and for Dale to step in and done a very remarkable and commendable job. And I'd like to thank you, Dale, for all your hard work. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And the staff.
Thank you, everybody. Yes. I then move with that to PH 010-23, bearing number RZ002-22, being Concord Properties Limited, the Grey Group, the Crossroads Urban Core Area Bylaw Amendment 45M adoption. It's moved by myself as Chair of Planning, Development, and Heritage, and it reads as follows. Whereas bylaw number 45M, a bylaw to amend the Town of Stratford zoning and development bylaw, being number 45, was read and approved the first time on March 8th, 2023. And whereas bylaw number 45M, a bylaw to amend the Town of Stratford zoning and development bylaw, was read and approved a second time on April the 12th, 2023. Be it resolved that bylaw number 45M, a bylaw to amend the Town of Stratford zoning and development bylaw, bylaw number 45, be hereby adopted, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to affix their signatures and the corporate seal of the town thereto, and to be formally declared the said bylaw passed. This resolution bears the recommendation of the Planning, Development, and Heritage Committee as discussed at a meeting held on, it says January 30th, 2023. So, was that the meeting date?
Yes, it was.
Was? Okay.
That was the
Yeah.
original.
That was the original one. Yeah, I just couldn't remember if it was January or February. Thank you.
Okay, so that's moved by Councillor McDonald. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cox. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Okay, thank you. That was a big one. That was one of the most important pieces of.
Do you want some more water, Councillor McDonald? Can I get you some water?
Okay, we'll now move to back to our original order. I guess we'll go to item number 10, which is recreation, culture, and events. I'll ask the chair of that committee, Councillor Jill Chandler, to give her report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was thinking the safety services were coming next, but it's not. The following is just an overview of projects and items being worked on within the Recreation, Culture, and Events Department. An update on our committees. The Recreation, Culture, and Events Committee met twice in February. We didn't meet in January. The initial meeting served as an orientation for new committee members, and the second meeting allowed us to delve further into projects such as the community campus and waterfront park and more. Arts and Culture Subcommittee met on March 9th with discussions centered around artist bursaries, artist in residence programs, interactive public art proposals, and memorial donations. The subcommittee is set to meet again tomorrow, and we are going to approach things with a refined focus on actioning several of the items that have been discussed by the subcommittee in the past. In regards to the community campus, the town has released tender packages for the infrastructure development of the community campus. The goal is to have site work started in May or early June. Stratford Youth Center and Council. The Youth Center currently has 67 members. Registrations will reopen in September. The Youth Council, as we discussed previously, is currently working on a project to lobby the province about upgrading the crosswalk on Bunbury Road in front of Cotton Park. As you mentioned, Your Worship, the council was given a tour of the Youth Center and was able to see the many programs and activities that they're involved with, and could probably also see that their growth in membership and programs, as they continue to grow, it's evident that they're limited by their current space. The youth center members and their council continue to be involved in all town events. They volunteer with a number of community organizations and develop their civic engagement strategies. Youth Center Leadership Committee will be starting to collect items in April for the online auction, which we held in June. Youth Center will be starting to sell their kickoff the summer raffle tickets in mid-April. Update on spring planning. The town will be working on several spring projects, namely the splash pad, sustainability rain garden, the installation of the playground at Strawberry Hill, paving work at Cotton Park, tree planting, bench installations, and the installations of an accessibility mat at T Hill Park Beach. Our adult art programming, spring classes are underway with most programs operating at full capacity. In regards to recreational programming, Stratford will be offering a new youth skateboarding program in May called Introduction to Skateboarding 101. Depending on uptick from the initial program, the town will hope to offer subsequent programs in June, July, and August. The town will also introduce a new older and stronger 55-plus fitness class. It's going to be offered twice a week in the month of May, and again, it has the possibility of continuing based on demand. Pickleball program will continue indoors for the months of May and June and move to Kinloch tennis courts for July and August. The town will once again be offering its summer kids camp. Registration is now open for the 9-week camp, which begins July 4th. Registration for intro to sports and U4 soccer registration will open June 1st. Our sports fields will begin work on all of our outdoor recreation facilities once the weather permits, and the town is still working with insurance providers regarding damage sustained during Fiona. Town is also working with Tennis PEI on scheduling programs and tournaments for pondside courts, May through October. Our multi-use courts at Kinloch Park and the Bunbury Outdoor Rink will also be prepped for spring play. And finally, our fitness area and gymnasium, our daily usage of the fitness area has increased for the 3rd consecutive month with an average of 140 users per day, and that number excludes program participants, so that's folks headed to the gym alone. And we wanted to update that guests of the gym have seen the addition of a spin bike and will shortly see a recumbent bike added to the fitness amenities. And I think that concludes our report. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I have one question. It's more for perhaps Jeremy. Jeremy, we had discussed at some point prior a reconfiguration of one of the ball fields at McNeil to allow for, I guess, more use on it rather than just reconfiguring perhaps part of the field to allow for that. Has that gone? I can't remember where we left that.
In our capital budget process, we looked at 2 options. One was the mini field option, adding a 5th field somewhere in the town, and Fullerton's was the location that we thought was probably most suitable based on parking and washroom facilities and access for the general public. And the second option was exploring removing the grass infield at Lower McNeil. We've had meetings with baseball, we've had meetings with softball as late as today. Actually having a second meeting with baseball on Friday, so we're still working through that whole entire process to see what is the best option for the town.
Okay, so it's moving forward?
It's moving forward.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's the same question I had answered.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
Councillor Chandler, are you signing up for the Learning to Skateboard?
I'm actually instructing it.
Speaking of the spin bike, I see there's a spin business coming to Stratford.
That's right.
Down by the Sobeys Mall area.
Yes.
So I'm not sure when it's opening, but signs up.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for,
Nice to see new stuff come to Stratford. The Messer, the
Absolutely,
Lebanese restaurant next door.
yeah.
Next door. It's good to see
Yeah.
everything come across the bridge.
Okay, thank you for your report, Councillor. Now move to Finance and Technology. I'll ask Chair of that committee, Councillor Ron Dowling, to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a brief report and then the resolutions to follow.
Yep.
As you all know, the budget, of course, was passed on March 22nd, and staff is now updating the municipal software staff attended the presentation workshop on the town active transportation network. The new financial coordinator began work on March 20th. His name is Taiwu Kim, and he's been engaged in a significant amount of training over the past few weeks. There's a large learning curve. For all accounts, he's doing very well. Staff are continuing to work on the own disaster claims and working with insurance adjusters on the own damages to town properties. And of course, that's an ongoing process that we hope to see resolved somewhere in the near future. Staff are also preparing government claims information for COA and the Infrastructure and Active Transportation Fund. And as well, they're reviewing assets to identify those that have been and will be completed in the current year. The staff are also updating fee Schedule A for introduction of new rates and updating meal and allowance policy, updating new utility rates in the system, and working on equal utility billing. So it's a very busy time for finance staff. And of course, Director O'Connell is on, as the CIO, as mentioned, is currently on a very well-deserved vacation after the tremendous effort that she and other staff have put in during the budget process. So that will constitute my report, Your Worship. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
So, Counselor, I don't, you might not know the answer to this, but I just was wondering more than anything. When I'm looking at the revenue for March 2023, specifically recreation programs, it seems like we're up quite a bit as opposed to what's normally budgeted. Have you heard, or do you have any knowledge that we're seeing an increase in registrations for our various recreation programs, or is that just simply an increase in fees, or a little bit of both? Oh, Jeremy's there, so you might.
I might be able to help with that. You'll see an increase generally in March because we're doing registrations for our spring programs at that time. So they are somewhat calculated in previous year's budget, but the programs will actually take place or be executed in this year's budget.
So would it be fair to say that, are we seeing an increase, or is that just?
Within our recreation, arts, and cultural programs, very few of our programs don't operate at full capacity. So we're very fortunate that all our programs are well attended.
Any other comments or questions? No. Okay, you've got a couple of resolutions.
Just first,
Oh, the financial statements, yeah.
The Financial Finance and Technology Committee did meet on March 15th, and all approved minutes are attached to the package. And as well, on 11B, there are the financial statements of town income and the utility income statements for March 2023. If any other questions might arise in relation to those two items.
Any questions on the financial statements?
Your Worship, I'll move on then to the resolution, FT 008-2023, Council Remuneration Bylaw Amendment, second reading. Moved by myself, whereas Council would like to make a change to the payment frequency of their remuneration, which is currently paid in quarterly installments, per bylaw 36, section 1, subject to any federal and provincial reductions in the third month of each quarterly period. And whereas Council would like to change the frequency of the payment to monthly installments, and whereas for clarification purposes, this does not change the amount of remuneration that Council receives, only the timing. Be resolved that attached bylaw number 36B, a bylaw to amend the Council remuneration bylaw, bylaw number 36, be hereby read and approved a second time.
Seconder? Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried.
Your Worship, FT 009-2023, 2023 council remuneration bylaw amendment and adoption. Moved by myself, whereas council read and approved the change to the payment frequency of council's remuneration from quarterly to monthly for the first time on March 8, 2023. And whereas council read and approved the payment frequency of council's remuneration from quarterly to monthly for the second time on April 12, 2023. Be it resolved that the attached bylaw amendment, bylaw 36B, a bylaw to amend the council remuneration bylaw, bylaw number 36, be hereby adopted, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to affix their signatures and the corporate seal of the town thereto, to be formally declared the said bylaw passed.
Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cox. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Thank you, Councillor Downey.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, we'll now go back to our regular schedule, safety services. I'll ask Chair of that committee, Councillor Jackson, to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. We were anticipating that Sergeant Nick Doyle might be here tonight, but we don't have him in attendance, so I will go through our safety services meeting minutes, a summary of those from March 20th, 2023. In that meeting, we had a report from the fire company on our monthly fire calls. Again, most of the calls for Crossroads Fire Company are in the Stratford area, majority being MVAs and fire alarms. We had a couple of structure fires and one assist to the city for a water rescue, which is great to see collaboration and cooperation there. Citizens on Patrol gave a report, and again, we thank them for the great work by a small group of volunteers. They're out on the weekends, Friday and Saturday evenings, patrolling our neighborhoods, making sure that everyone is safe and reporting into the RCMP if they see anything out of the ordinary. They do require more volunteers, so if anyone, we're hoping for about 5 or 6 more folks. If anyone's interested, please contact the town. And we'll get them in touch with the right folks around that. But it'd be nice to see some more folks take up that cause. It's a great group. So at our safety services meeting, Corporal Weatherby provided an RCMP report. He discussed current calls, and I'll get into those a little bit later. And did a presentation last month to the Much Drive Seniors Complex. A number of residents there experienced scam calls, so it's nice to have our RCMP members out, providing some information and helping to keep those folks safe from being scammed. So we also discussed during the RCMP section there a recent meeting with Charlottetown Police to review the watch program that was held late February. For anyone who's not aware of that, it's the camera system that Charlottetown Police uses, and we did see a great demonstration on that and the capabilities of the system. So we're going to be looking to the business community, some folks maybe in here, but to help us as we move forward there to determine the support for that. And it's a great kind of prevention initiative. It's I know we heard from the city. It's a small percentage of it is around. Kind of going back and doing some gathering evidence. Is more of a preventative measure, so it's worked well in the city of Charlottetown. We'll look at that here in the coming months. We talked about lighting. The committee recommended additional or enhanced lighting in the area of Greenway Heights upon request from residents in that area, and I think an increase in the wattage of a light that's already there. So we're keeping an eye on safety there. And we also approved a resolution for 8 new streetlights in the Kelly Heights subdivision in line with our streetlight policy. We'd lengthy discussion around traffic calming and different options for Rosebank Road, which has been one that's, there's been, it's been a long-standing issue with safety on that road. So there was a report provided, and we're going to, it was passed on, I believe, to the folks that are looking after the active transportation study. They're going to consider that in their report. Our RCMP member, Corporal Weatherby, was at that meeting and suggested he would, or the RCMP would be taking a look at some more patrols and presence in that area at peak times. So again, we're going to wait until the active transportation study results come out to see where Rosebank Road is on the list of priorities. But I know as someone who's represented Ward 2 before, in my previous time in council, I know that's been a long-standing issue and I would like to see it resolved. I'll move on from there, but any questions on this report, please fire away. Transit, we did, you have a question?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I did just want to comment. I'm sure Jeff would say the same thing. But when I was out knocking on doors on Rosebank Road, residents were very engaged. I know the town is aware of that. I think sometimes we've used the term that it's a polarizing topic on the street. I feel that the majority of residents support that there is a speeding problem or safety issue, and I think that sometimes in the past, maybe some of the solutions may have been polarizing for some, but everyone I spoke to was very passionate about the street in its current state.
And likewise, and thank you, Madam Councillor. I've heard the same thing. You know, from my perspective, and this is just my perspective, is that it was not exactly polarizing. It was actually fairly one-directional in that I heard from almost, these were the people I heard from, certainly, that there is issues with Rosebank Road. There continues to be issues with Rosebank Road. One heartbreaking story I heard was that a family pet was killed by a motorist, and certainly those things can happen at any point in time, at any point in day. But there are concerns on that street. I've heard it loud and clear. I've read the report. I see that there was a proposal for a sidewalk. I understand from the CAO that there may have been more high priority needs identified. I've heard as well that of the cost from Ms. Woodard, who's present, our Director of Infrastructure and Safety. Look, I appreciate that and understand that. I have a responsibility to advocate for the residents in my ward. I think it's an issue. I did see the comments from Corporal Weatherby surrounding gathering some more traffic data, and I think that's probably the next step, and that's what I'm going to advocate for, is a move from the anecdotal to something more evidence-based so that we can have something that's actionable. That would be my preference. I see CEO Crosby there, so I'll let him chime in.
I just wanted to add to your comments, but Corporal Weatherby has had some updated patrols in that area, and they are patrolling that area a little more often, and he indicated he would do that after the last meeting, so we hope to have some more information on that soon, but the RCMP are patrolling that area more often until we come up with a solution. Thanks.
Thank you.
If I can just say one small note too. When,
Sure.
our last meeting when Councillor Weatherby was here, we talked to him also about the Stratford Road and about the Mason Road, which are also speedways, maybe more speedway than Rosebank, where Rosebank is more residential in the area. The Mason Road and Stratford Road has certainly become speedways. It certainly hasn't stopped, and it continues to be, the speed limit that is atrocious in both areas. So that's something we also have to find some kind of measure for that, because it's not working. What's happening? We have a sign on a speeding sign in Stratford Road, but there's drivers who actually try to almost like a game, try to hit the highest number on that post without any repercussions. So to me, it's really, I guess it's really troubling that continues, and we really don't have the police force to set a car on the Rosebank Road at nighttime, and Stratford Road and Mason Road. But something has to be done before somebody gets fatally injured on those throughways. I just thought I'd mention that.
No, and I appreciate that, Councillor Cox. We do have more than one area, for sure, that will be a priority for us, and I guess that's where we expect there may be some active transportation solutions to these, and maybe that is the answer on Rosebank Road, maybe not on Bunbury and Mason, but where it is, and when we do get the report, I think the end of April, we're anticipating somewhere around that 1st of May. we as a council at that time will have to take that and use that as evidence. I mean, we may 100% agree with it. We may want to prioritize some other things. That's our prerogative to do that. But they are gathering the evidence, and where we can help and we have the budget to do that, we will do that. But I appreciate folks in all the wards bringing these to our attention and continue to do that if there are, because we need to, as a group, make those priority decisions and based on the evidence that we do have. So thank you for the comments on that. Moving on to transit.
I have a question too.
Sorry,
Jody.
Deputy Mayor.
Just going back to E-Watch, I know I've been councillor here for 5 years now. We're still talking about E-Watch, and we had a great meeting there with Chief McConnell there a couple of months ago in February, and Jeremy attended. Jeremy, it was a great meeting. He talked about how the cost of cameras and so on, and they control it. I mean, it doesn't matter who really controls the Charlottetown or the RCMP. I mean, the RCMP right now go to Charlottetown to get information up from the cameras. And the last couple of days, you've seen on TV from Compass a graffiti in Cornwall and graffiti in Stratford. These cameras would prevent, you would have something there. And I seem that we always stall. The cameras cost $7,000. I know we're going to try to work with the corporate people in sort of its relationship, community-based policing, so on. But we just got to get going on it. Like, we just can't, I'm in 4 years of this and talking about it, and it does, and we're looking at buying the system and putting our label on a Stratford and controlling it, or give it to Charlottetown and let them control it. But anytime the RCMP want information from it, they can go to Charlottetown and get it. And that's what they're doing now. That's what RCMP get information from Charlottetown with their license plate cameras, recognized cameras, everything else. And we just, our feeders being, we're stoked.
Just if I could clarify the status of that, I understand that the briefing was held and it'll be now discussed at Safety Services. We'll make a recommendation to council with regard to that, and then we'll look at budget to see if budget dollars and how we can work with the corporate community to put those cameras in place using the same model. That's another thing we'll have to decide is the model we're going to use. Are we going to use the same model as Charlottetown? And then it's the sharing of data, the monitoring, and the administrative side of it. So all those steps need to be taken, and I think Councillor Jackson and his committee are working toward that.
Oh yeah, I'm co-chair. I'm in co-chair.
Yeah, you're co-chair.
So I'm there working. And
So I think that's in the process, and I understand your frustration, but it is something that is being worked on.
Yeah, but just we always talk about Kensington and Summerside have it now, and New Glasgow, Fredericton Police. There's different police forces across Atlantic provinces have this system, right? It's not a Charlottetown system; it's a E-Watch system, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Understood.
thank you for your comments, Worship.
Councillor Jackson or Deputy Mayor, is there, just for clarity, when we talk about the E-Watch cameras, these are just cameras that are collecting and recording data. They're not cameras that can issue automated speeding tickets or anything like that, like Ottawa or anything has?
No.
Okay.
No. And thank you for the question. They are real-time cameras that are monitored in Charlottetown in that example. Again, they're not, there's not someone kind of consistently watching. There wouldn't be someone watching to see what I'm doing 24 hours a day, but they're there to kind of capture, if need be, to share information if there's a suspect vehicle traveling a certain way. The technology is phenomenal that they do have.
Yeah.
And I commit to the Deputy Mayor as that committee. This is a priority, I would say, for myself, whatever budget money we can find to do that. I think the benefits are there, especially the growth that we are seeing and we're going to see, especially in this core area. We may start smaller. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think reinventing the wheel would cost us a lot more than the price that they are kind of suggesting right now. But in the spirit of how we're trying to reduce red tape and delays and things, I think we can commit to making sure that we do that as our Safety Services Committee. We believe in, I think the folks that have seen the demonstration believe in what it would do for us, and hearing from the RCMP and City Police together and how they share information and how beneficial that is. I think it's a no-brainer. That said, we do need budget for it, but we can, again, it gets back to us setting priorities, and we need to find the money for those things that are priorities and make that decision as a group with our committees. So again, it will not be delayed by our Deputy Mayor. And I appreciate the urgency that you have, so you know exactly what the system can do, and we'll work hard. We'll get our heads together and make sure we get this moving, with the help of the committee.
Do you gentlemen, do you have any sort of, even a very rough time frame as to when we can expect something back on that? Or is that just something that's percolating and
Well, I think I think we need to make the case and have that discussion again. We told our Safety Service Committee we were going to report back on the, discussion we had. We're all pretty passionate about it, knowing what we do know about it. So, you know, following our normal process, we would need a recommendation from our committee to go forward with that, work with our senior staff and try to find budget money for that. But we're going to keep moving on it for sure.
is it worthwhile to discuss at a committee of the whole in the future, just to give us some more time? Or we're not there yet, I don't know.
Got to go safety service first.
Yeah, I think usually we go to safety services and then committee of the whole and then council. So that I would expect we'll follow the same process for this.
I just wanted to mention too that myself and Wendy are going to reach out to the business community to see what the interest would be, because a lot of this, the cameras that are in Charlottetown are not possible without having the business community on board. So we want to see, you know, whether they're going to be interested in this before we make a commitment. So we want to get that information also. So we are collecting some information in the background, and we will have that back to the committee here soon.
Thank you.
At our meeting with Charlottetown there, Jeremy, I can attest to it, Chief McConnell said he started off at 4, now he has 84.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive when you sit in the control room and see where all the cameras are. And he asked the question of one of us that were there, "Would you mind providing your license plate?" And cars showed up everywhere. So, I mean, it's quite surprising how you know, detailed they are and how they can pick up the license plate recognition and stuff. So, yeah, it starts off small, but again, I think we have to get our business community engaged, because it's not financially feasible for us to start our system by ourselves. So we will get back to you on that.
Thank you for that discussion.
Thank you for the continued push on that one. So I'm still in our safety services meeting minutes here. Just going through, we had a chat about ridership in our transit. And I know we do have the graph for later here, but ridership in March is up to 181, was up to 181 a day, well above our 2019 figures pre-COVID. So again, showing promise there on the adoption of the transit system, and will be all that much more important as we continue to grow our core. I know there was a meeting, I'm not sure if it's been held yet, with the transit provider on the potential addition of mid-morning, afternoon, evening runs. And I guess so we'll have an update on that maybe at our next meeting. And I know Mayor Ogden had discussed potential reestablishment of our transit advisory group. And I know Jeremy and Wendy were going to chat about that, I think, too, and see if there's any benefit in going down there again. Last item from the safety services was just to mention from our fire company around the increasing number of hazardous abandoned properties within the town. And I know they've had a look at them, especially after Fiona, where there been trees down, they've been abandoned and not really cleaned up after it. So I know our fire company and our building inspector are aware of those. And if people do see those in the community, please let someone know if there's danger, you know, if there's power lines down or stuff like that. So I know that was brought up by our fire company, and just something to keep an eye out for. So that's my safety services meeting minutes. I just have a couple other items here. Since we don't have our Sergeant Doyle here tonight, the RCMP report, maybe we'll move on to that. It's in your package. So we did see a couple of things that I wanted to question Sergeant Doyle or Corporal Weatherby about. Seeing that there was someone caught passing a school bus, we obviously don't want to see that in Stratford, but we're appreciative that they were caught. And those numbers, I'm not smart enough to know what all of those things are on there, but I know that our RCMP are working very hard to keep us safe. Some things, some suspicious vehicles and mischief. the can throwing incident that happened, incidents, I guess, a couple of months ago, are kind of moving through the system now as far as prosecution, I think. And just, I'm not sure if anyone has any questions specifically on this report, but it is in your package. We'll have a little bit more of a discussion once we have our member with us again. And we do have safety services coming up next week. So that's, we do appreciate the kind of enhanced stats that we did get from the RCMP this month. So if there's any questions on those, I'm probably not the best person to answer those.
Are you going to also look at the other two attachments, or just this one?
We can go through any one you want, Councillor.
Just one question I had when I was reading it in advance of tonight, is the breakdown of, like the monthly report occurrences with the graphs, and they reference other occurrences.
Yeah.
And like there's occurrences, is the last graph occurrences the combination of other traffic? Like, it
Yeah,
wasn't clear to me.
My guess on that one, after going through it, is that anything under a certain threshold will be included in that other if it's not a certain percentage. Is that what your question was? Like, if it's not big enough to meet a certain labeling threshold there, they're going to be.
Maybe we can
Other?
refer that to.
We'll wait and,
Again,
RCMP
yeah,
for-
I'm not the,
Did the answer
expert.
next meeting?
yes, we can ask at the next meeting, but like Councillor Jackson said, it is great to see the
Yeah.
enhanced reporting.
and I thank the councillor for asking for that the last couple of meetings, and we've seen some progress, so I do appreciate that. I had some questions around extortion, intimidation, some other things on here, but we'll wait until safety services and maybe next meeting on that. Moving on to Humane Society, in the essence of time here, pretty standard fare there, reports in your package. Patrols on pace for our annual kind of average. No dogs or cats strayed that were taken in, so that's always a good thing. We're getting compliance in our community there. Again, moving on to the transit, we did have updated numbers there, 181 a day in March. Sorry, Councilor.
Sorry, I think, Mr. Councilor, Mr. Castle might have forwarded the church on
It
Yeah.
just has the 188, the 2023 wasn't included in the original.
Yeah, so we did, so I did, and thank you, Councillor, that we did state that number is 181 per day. And it's well above our 2019 stats, and I know that was something that one of the former councillors was very proud of, the growth in transit, Deputy Mayor Clow when he was here. So we are continuing to see that growth, and with, meetings taking place on potential expanded runs and things like that, we're seeing, we're really start to see the benefits of this increased ridership, and it's forcing us to consider the expansion there with the provider. So that's the transit. I'm just gonna, so the fire company did mention earlier, we're meeting next week with the fire company again, just kind of some, most of it occurring in Stratford, of course, some MVAs, not too many, thank goodness, this last month, some fire alarms, a couple structure fires, and that assist to the city water rescue, which is, we're lucky to have that capability over here, and some great members. And again, as I always kind of say, thank you to all of those members for their continued service to our community. So that is my report. I do have a resolution. If there's no other questions.
Just have one question, and maybe premature on this, Councillor Jackson.
Sure.
In relation to lift assists, we had some discussion previously on that. And like I say, if this isn't, I can't recall whether we're in the committee in a whole on that or whether that was in an open session, but if you could just touch base on that.
Yeah, so what it's about, Councillor, is that what you were?
What it's about, and whether we had some discussion in relation to compensation for call-outs for the department, because there is a cost to the town in essentially providing assist to a private entity.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. So we, again, it was brought up probably a couple months ago. I think in this most recent month, we've had maybe one lift assist. So for anyone in the audience, that's when our fire company's called out to assist an EMS or another first responder to help lift a patient, it may be for various reasons. But to what Councillor was saying, a number of folks will respond to those. It's not just one person, so you may have 7 or 8 folks go out, and only one is needed. So luckily, there's not that many of those. We are going to discuss it, I think, next at our fire company meeting. So when you take into account that each member that does respond gets a certain stipend for that, it is costly, but it's a very valuable service for us to provide. It's probably on the, around a dozen to 15 times a year, so it's not a major issue right now, but we're going to continue to monitor that, and if need be, we will bring it up to the right folks to say, look, we need to find a better way. But right now, we're really just concerned with getting someone there to help. So it's hard to just have a couple people on call, but we'll continue to explore what we can do with that. But it is a great service to have that our members are able to help with, and we'll keep an eye on it. And if it becomes a bigger issue, for sure, we will seek some kind of additional monies there or something.
That's great, appreciate that update, and like I say, the service that's provided is a benefit to the citizens that are required for the lift. But we just want to make sure that balance is there if those instances continue to grow, or shouldn't say continue to grow. If they grow exponentially, then we may have to look at a particular reimbursement model. But
Absolutely.
It sounds like it's well under control there now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's on our radar for sure. Thank you. So if there's no other questions, I will move to our resolution. So that's all right with everyone. So resolution SS 002-2023, noise and nuisance bylaw amendment, first reading. Moved by myself, Councillor Jackson, whereas the provincial legislation for the Highway Traffic Act was revised in May 2022 to modify the clause previously stating that a person who is riding a bicycle shall not ride on a sidewalk, to allow the council of a municipality having jurisdiction over a sidewalk to impose a bylaw to allow riding or use of bicycles by children on a sidewalk or any portion of a sidewalk. And whereas the Act defines children as persons 12 years of age or under, be it resolved that attached bylaw number 30-C, a bylaw to amend the noise and nuisance bylaw number 30, be hereby read and approved the first time. And this resolution bears a recommendation of Safety Services Committee as discussed at a meeting held September 20th, 2022. So moved.
Okay, do we have a seconder? I don't know who got first.
Okay. Just a little on this, Your Worship. So this, again, the Highway Traffic Act was revised last year. So previous to that, there was no allowance for children or anyone riding a bicycle on the sidewalks. And this is something where having the school and the connectivity we have, the active transportation, is such a benefit to our young folks. So luckily that was revised last year to allow us to make that decision. So this resolution is just us allowing children 12 and under, as exactly as it said in here, to ride a bicycle on our sidewalk. So I think it's a great move, and just having a son that was at Stratford Elementary, there was a lot of kids that were riding their bikes. This is a lot safer. We have active transportation corridors, and I think it's just a good move.
Okay, any other discussion?
So we're overriding the highway, just overriding the Highway Traffic Act, regards to.
Provincial legislation was
Yeah.
amended to allow
Oh, has it?
municipalities to govern, to make rules regarding sidewalks,
Okay,
who can ride bicycles on them, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I see where everybody's coming from, but what about an e-bike on a sidewalk?
I don't think children 12 years old, are they allowed to have e-bikes? I'm not sure.
I think an e-bike is classified as a motor vehicle under the Highway Traffic Act, so it wouldn't
Be
necessarily,
on the road?
it wouldn't be on the definition of a bicycle, I don't think.
Yeah, it's
It's good to
intended,
have this gentleman beside me.
it's intended for bicycles, the pedal bikes.
Yeah, that's a good question, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Do a lot of damage to somebody.
Okay, with that, any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried.
Thank you, Worship. That is my report.
Yeah, just before we close Safety Services, I do want to put in a plug for Citizens on Patrol. I think that it's one of those organizations that's a win-win. You get to socialize and have coffee with people and learn more about your town, and it's great for newcomers, or people coming that are new to the town or whatever, to get to know people and to know the town and to also help the town. So it's a great thing to be involved in. I'd encourage anybody that knows of anyone that would like to, have an outing on Thursday, Friday, or I believe they go out on Saturday too, do they? Maybe it's just Friday and Saturday, but just another set of eyes and ears to keep our town safe. So I just put in a plug for them.
Thank you, Worship.
Councillor Jackson, also, we talked at length the last couple of meetings about trying to get residents to lock their cars at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or when they get home at supper time. And I've heard from different people, it's actually a bit of a buzz in Stratford that people are actually talking about that now. And so I'm going to give ourselves a pat in the back, because that's something we tried to get out there, and to thank the staff at the town for putting signage up on our electronic screen and help getting word out. So really appreciate all the hard work that our staff did with that, because that's not a police problem, that's a citizen problem, and all of us have to take interest in our own personal belongings and lock our homes and lock our. Unfortunately, this is what we have to do today. But we have to lock our cars, our vehicles up, and I think more and more people are doing that. So
you're right.
So
and thank you for bringing that up. I know it is important, and I appreciate Wendy and the town staff sharing that. They're crimes of opportunity, and if we take away those opportunities, then we are in a better place.
We're now closed for business.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to infrastructure. I'll ask Deputy Mayor Gallant to give his report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Infrastructure, Hurricane Fiona, tree debris cleanup is wrapping up by both the town and province's contractors. The province will be removing debris stockpiles from Keppie Road and Hollis Avenue in the coming weeks. And thanks to Wilfred McDonald and his crew there, stepping up there, especially with the PEI government too. So it's great that Wilfred took that lead there since Fiona, helping us out, the town of Stratford. The town efforts will be shifting to trail maintenance and repair damage caused by machinery on the trails during the cleanup efforts, and there are large stumps removed from some of the parks. Several infrastructure projects are progressing well and are on track for construction during the 2023 construction season. The Waterfront Boardwalk, Corey's Lift Station upgrades, and the Bunbury Lift Station upgrades project are being finalized to tender this month. The Community Campus Site Servicing Project is currently out to tender and will close on April 13th, that'll be tomorrow, with construction anticipated to begin in May or early June. Island Coastal Service will begin construction of the Kinloch Road multi-purpose path in May, and Great Jarrow expected to begin construction of the second water reservoir in May. Staff is involved with review and coordination with consultants and to keep these projects on schedule. Upland Planning plus Design is continuing to work on the update of the active transportation master plan and hosted a workshop there last week with staff and council and committee members on March 29th, which was well attended. Upland is now preparing what we heard report, which will be submitted out in mid-April. Then they will continue to prepare a draft plan, which will be submitted by mid-June. Funding has been received from Trans-Canada Trail in the amount of $87,500 for the paving of the section of Trans-Canada Trail from Mason Road to Fullan's Park. Nice to see this. The estimated project value is $250,000. A tender will be prepared in the coming weeks when work anticipated to take place later this summer. So that's a great trail going from Mason Road right through Hollis, right through Reeves Estate, right to Fullan's Marsh. It's nice to see that. It's just, the residents appreciate it. Ongoing maintenance of town-owned projects and trails. Property grounds cleanup has started where ground conditions allow. Clearing, salting, sanding of town walkways and parking lots are coming to an end. Summer maintenance equipment is being checked over and over and prepared for the season. Bylaw complaints and investigations are ongoing, increasing as they tend to this time of year. Requests for temporary speed bumps are being received and prepared. Preparations made for deploying starting on the 1st of May. Planning has begun for tendering for capital purchase and equipment purchases. Sewer and water and infrastructure maintenance and inspection is ongoing on a daily basis. Damage to manhole covers and water valve boxes from snowplows is being assessed and planned for repairs. Water and sewer inspections and water turn-ons for new developments ongoing, and planning and coordination for the painting of the exterior of our town complex to be begin in May. During the month of March, there were no sewer or water interruptions or emergencies. A couple of our water wells have tested with low coliform counts, which is normal at this time of the year. There's a reliable chlorination, and monitoring systems place low coliform in wells of no concern. Sampling throughout this distributed system continues to turn to clear results. This is the report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the infrastructure report?
Just a comment, Your Worship, it's great to see the boardwalk development, getting underway. There's a lot of initiatives planned for that area, which once was a black eye in the community, will certainly be one of our crown jewels. Before too long, it'll provide a lot of opportunities for our residents to recreate and to walk along our waterfront, which really we don't have the opportunity in large scale now, but will with the boardwalk development, which of course would connect if someone wanted to right on to Charlottetown down through Victoria Park. So it's great to see that going ahead, and I commend Director Woodard and her staff for all the work that they've done in these areas. Certainly, by the report, a very busy portfolio, so appreciate all the work that's being done there. It's onward and upward for Stratford, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a great turn of phrase, from a black eye to a crown jewel. That's very good.
Yep.
That's exactly right, though. Yeah. Thank you.
I just have a question, and it maybe, Deputy Mayor, you might be the best person, or maybe Director Woodard. I had a few concerns expressed from the residents on Lower Creekside about the green space located at Creekside. Certainly, the residents there appreciate and understand that the cleanup from Fiona will be ongoing for quite some time. What they were wondering about at this point in time is that if there's a schedule identified for when green spaces in certain neighborhoods will be attended to, or what they might expect in that regard.
I'll give the best answer I can to that. We are going to be out assessing our own town-owned properties and parks and spaces. We'll have our sustainability coordinator out to look at the tree situation with us and give us some guidance on what's acceptable to stay, maybe if it's in a deeper wooded area that can stay laying down, or what should be removed. So there is some of that assessment still to be done. Timeline, I can't give a schedule per se, but we are actively going to go out and do that. And then, of course, as soon as we can engage somebody to do the work for us, that is definitely on our list of to do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think if I could add just one other park to the list, Lance Park in Glen Cove. A resident mentioned to me that it's dangerous with the thawing of the ice that was there, and now there's a lot of stubs sticking up that could
Sure.
injure somebody or whatever. So
I'll
they
make
were
a note of
concerned
it.
about that.
Absolutely. If it wasn't on our list, I'll add it for sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Just on the waterfront there, I concur with Ronnie there. With the first phase, there's going to be this coming up soon, and then with the boardwalk and then surrounding Michael Thomas Way there, and especially with both governments, with the COA, the waterfront, the COA helped with through Lawrence and so on, and especially with active transportation and the bridge. Steve Myers, with that, everything's connecting there. It's nice to see the collaboration there of both sides there and moving forward and getting one thing done there. So it was nice to see that.
Yeah, thank you. And you have a resolution, Deputy
Yep.
Mayor?
Okay, resolution number INC 003-2023, municipal strategic component of the Canada Community Building. Moved by myself, Deputy Mayor Gallant. Whereas the sewage lift station upgrades Phase 2 project with an estimated cost of $3,040,000 expected to be incurred over 2 fiscal years, with $540,000 approved in the 2023 capital budget, contingent to unfunding has been selected for submission for funding under the municipal strategic component (MSC) of Canadian Community Building Fund. And whereas the Stratford utility has applied for the MSC program for funding in the amount of $3,080,000 as a priority number 1 under this program for the sewage lift station upgrades Phase 2 project, titled Sewage Capacity and overflow improvements on the application. This is a necessary component of a larger project to alleviate capacity issues on a pond-side lift station by rejecting flow from Corey's lift station, the gravity trunk main. Being resolved that the application funding for $3 million and $380,000 under the municipal MSC Act of the Canada Community Building Fund is hereby supported by Council. In addition, Council understands and commits that it will be responsible for its designated share of eligible capital costs of the project and will assume responsible for any all operating and maintenance costs resulting from the project. This bears. There's nothing on the bottom there, is there? I can't see it.
No, it's
No.
just a motion that's, it didn't go to the committee, I guess.
No.
But it's something that we need to, in order to move ahead with this project, we need to do it. So,
Okay.
so you're moving that,
Yep.
okay,
Moved by
so
myself, yep.
do you have a seconder? Okay, thank you. Councillor Jackson, thank you. Okay, any discussion?
Not necessarily discussion on this. I appreciate that there's a number of different items under infrastructure as it relates to lift station upgrades. There's been discussions here at finance during budgeting as well as committee of the whole at different points and times. And again, it may be Director Woodard who answers this question. So I understand that this funding is related to a certain, I guess, a certain project at, I believe it's the Pondside Lift Station.
It's Courish, I think. Courish, connect Pondside to, from Courish to the gravity main trunk.
Yeah.
It impacts the Pondside station, so what we're looking to do is, so currently the Corish pump station pumps up and into the Pondside station, which then pumps and conveys over to our main station.
Okay.
We're looking to remove the Corish station from Pondside, so that'll alleviate our capacity issues at
Okay.
Pondside.
All right.
And so the Corish will then pump directly into the trunk main, which will gravitate right over to our main station at the waterfront
Gotcha.
that goes to Charlottetown.
Okay, so then this funding is under the MSC of the CCBF.
Correct.
Then, under our capital budget, we've allocated funds to alleviate capacity issues, I believe, at Bunbury.
There's a separate project, yes, under our
Yes.
capital budget for the Bunbury sewage lift station upgrades, yes.
All right. And then I understand as well, we discussed this, I think, at the community of the whole, we're looking at applying for a different fund that might be opened by the province in June. Is that right?
For the backup generators?
backup generators.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, all
Yes.
right. Okay, I just wanted to kind of get,
There's a lot happening under the utility, yes, for
Yeah.
capital projects.
okay, all right,
Mhm.
thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
that, yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we have a moved and seconded motion. All those in favor? Anyone against? Motion carried. Thank you, Councillor Glant, or Deputy Mayor Glant.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Okay, nothing from Committee of the Whole? Sustainability, I'll call on Councillor Cox to give his report.
Yeah, this is a very brief report here. We're kind of up to time too, so there we go. I just want to do a shout out to Jeremy Crosby alluded to, our CAO, but our greenhouse emissions target being met, so that was really nice to see that. And the tree program, 50 trees was extended by sustainability staff. That recently just closed, and I do believe we pretty much hit our target of 50 trees. The planting of these 5-year-old non-invasive species will begin in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Those builds are in partnership with the landowner who digs a hole, we come in with the tree in the hole, and so it's a real partnership between the town and people purchase. They can purchase one tree for $50 per household. Plan discussion, about a possible future program for helping Stratford landowners with support to replace multiple trees on their property continues. Different residents have brought this up to myself, and I imagine 2 other councillors and staff, that they're wondering what is our plan with this. One tree is nice, but a lot of places lost more than one tree with the hurricanes, so and we will continue to discuss that, and we're kind of busy with a lot of stuff right now, but that will be on our agenda next. The switch program, of course, is now closed. We talked about that our last meeting.
The second round was $1 million cap. However, a number of residents have inquired to see if we plan to continue this program and have a third application and implementation, which we certainly would like to do. We have been in discussion with the PACE group, which is the switch group, and we will once again try to secure some funding from this, so that continues. The town of Stratford, especially in the urban core zone, we monitor the replanting of trees, especially on town land. However, we do continue to work on policies and bylaws when it comes to private residences and contractors, especially in builds on lands over half an acre, because right now we do not have a policy where contractors have to replace trees that are knocked down on properties for new builds there. So that's something that we need to rectify and make sure that most contractors have been pretty good to put some greenery back on the properties. However, that's something that we really have to put some time and energy into that as we move forward. Now that April's here, it's important to make sure that projects the federal government has funded, for example, some of our ponds and waterways and estuaries, for example, Morris Pond and Stratford Road, where $400,000 has been allotted by the federal government, and to make sure that dredging and restorations remain on schedule for the summer. And that's something that has to be done, because right now that pond is in dire straits. And a big shout out to our sustainability staff, also to all our staff, and the Stratford Watershed program for their support and monitoring of these projects. And also the new builds on, especially in areas, and I just talked about the Stratford Road, so we use that for example, have put both silt and clay on the roads and on sidewalks. And this continues to be monitored, and we've talked in the past about perhaps cleaning this road, and I believe that will take place, because right now it's getting worse. And on a positive note, a resident recently talked to one of our staff and wanted to share how appreciative he and his family were of our town staff's efforts following Hurricane Fiona. The resident and his family spent a few days coming and going from our facility, and said they're blown away by the service provided, the welcoming environment that they received each day. They were here, and by our team's overall efforts. He wanted to pass along to everyone how touched his family was to be living here in Stratford, and said that the team at the town hall really went above and beyond what was expected, and his family was deeply touched by this during this very hard time. So great work to everyone and our staff here. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question, Your Worship?
Yeah.
One, I'm glad you brought up Moore's and Kelly's Pond. I'm hoping that everything is still on track for the summer-ish for the dredging in there, because I know that back when
maybe we could find out.
when I
If only there's something we could find out.
it was an item that was brought up back in 2017, 18 when I was here before.
Yeah.
We are definitely on track for the Morris Pond work. The contractor has already been engaged for that and is scheduled to begin as things dry up this summer. In Kelly's Pond, we have run into a little bit of a snag. If you may recall, our intentions, as we sort of postponed last year, was to partner up with the province, because they were looking to replace a culvert crossing Keppoch Road as part of the work. We would do it all simultaneously. We have recently heard from the province that their budget has been cut drastically, and they don't think they can take that on this year. So we're just looking at options now as to how we might proceed, and plan for maybe a two-part project where we can do what we need to do and have them do what they need to do next year, possibly. But we are going to be making some calls to see if there's any other changes that we can make to have all the work done as we had planned this year. As I know more, I'll certainly update everybody.
Awesome, thank you. And it's nice to have one of our new members in the room here. We will lobby constantly until we get that done, but thank you. We understand their budget constraints, but it's important to see this one through, even if it is two parts. It'll be nice to get that done, and thank you for the answer on that one. The other, I just wonder if anyone, if the chair or if any of the staff know if the watershed group is going to be doing their annual they had a membership drive. I don't know, I'm probably misnaming it here. Wendy might be able to answer this, but they had, we're talking about the trees. So they had, you buy a personal membership, I think it was $5 or $10, and you got a tree. You got a family membership for $20, you got some trees, all native species. Like, I think it's a great opportunity for, that's if it's still doing it, but.
Yeah, they do have a date in May. Top of my head, I think it's like the 13th or something like the Mother's Day weekend that they've just started promoting. And they have it listed as get your membership and receive native trees.
Trees, yes.
So I think maybe they have some extra this year, but I
That's awesome.
can't say that for certain. So,
No,
yeah.
and I'm glad that's ongoing, because I know I bought my family membership and I got 5, and I probably could have had more. But it's a great way of getting some native species. And they were, I forget what I got, some spruce, and I got some yellow birch and stuff like that. So for anyone who did lose trees, if they want to be patient, grab some already established. They're small, but they're really good.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear from Wendy that is going to move forward. And I think hopefully we can promote that, especially the tree part of it, because they do need our support, and a few bucks will definitely help them and help us. Thank you.
I might have said April, but it's May 13th, 9:30 to 12 at Cotton Park.
Thank you.
All right, I think I have a resolution here.
Yeah, if there's no more discussion,
Any more-
please proceed.
Any more
with-
discussion? Steve?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure Steve's okay over there.
No, you go ahead.
All right, do you want to bring it up on the board here? There we go. All right, for like a game show. I'm just going to read forward here. Okay, so whereas the town of Stratford has embraced the 4 pillars of environmental, economic and social, ethical sustainability, and whereas the town of Stratford, just keeps moving, aims to align its procurement practices with its corporate sustainable objectives and community values through purchasing more sustainable goods and services from suppliers who are themselves more sustainable. And whereas an effective sustainable procurement program requires a proven management framework within which activities can be systematically developed and optimized, and whereas nationally renowned sustainable procurement consultants at Reeve Consulting, funded by the FCM Green Municipal Fund, have prepared for the town of Stratford a strategy and action plan to guide municipal procurement based on best practice. And whereas the Sustainable Procurement Strategy and Action Plan lays out a framework, vision, goals, tactics, as well as an action plan, implementation, timeline, indicators of success. Be it resolved that the town of Stratford approve and adopt the Sustainable Procurement Strategy and Action Plan and the components therein, and proceed with the implementation of Sustainable Procurement Program. This resolution bears recommendation of Sustainable Committee based on an email poll conducted between March 29th, 2023 and April 3rd, 2023.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
By me.
seconder? Thank you, Councilor Dowling. Okay, any discussion? I think this is something that is kind of a win-win situation where we can help the environment, save taxpayers money, and get a good product, the best product in return. So those 3 things I think are part of this. All those criteria I think point to a real science-based, planet-based approach to procurement. So.
Yet another initiative, Your Worship, that Stratford has undertaken to protect our environment. And something I've always admired about Stratford is the commitment it has to those initiatives. And I think Councillor Cox perhaps mentioned earlier about meeting our target emissions goal. And you would mention about the reduction in water usage. So Stratford's certainly doing its part, and we continue to provide initiatives to enable residents and their businesses to be able to participate in those initiatives, and this is one of those as well. So thank you Councillor Cox, for your work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so when we spend money, we'll be spending it to the best effect for the environment and for the taxpayer. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Motion carried. Okay. Thanks for your report, Councillor Cox. Then move on to my committee, Intergovernmental Affairs and Accountability. The minutes of our March 23rd meeting, excuse me, are in your package. There was some discussion about the annual resident survey. We should be getting the results of that within a week or so, maybe a couple of weeks, Wendy, something like that? Yeah.
It'll be into May, probably.
Into May, yeah. It's usually the first week of May, second week of May, something like that. We usually get the results of, and we use that to guide our council activities and helps with some of our decisions around, because we have asked the residents what they think on a number of issues. A lot of the meeting was focused on preparing for the election and the stance that the town should be taking with regard to how we get the town priorities and issues out there. And I think we met with each of the candidates, and I think we're happy to have two fine residents or fine representatives who will, I think, carry our priorities and issues forward. So really pleased about that. Lots of good discussion around how we address the funding issues and that sort of thing. And it's been a long-standing issue, and there has been a commitment during the campaign to, by one of the parties, a winning party, that they would resolve that funding issue for municipalities, and that there would be a new junior high located in Stratford to be added to the plans for the future for our town. I guess the other issues were around how we make sure that whatever statements or priorities we put forward make sure that they're nonpartisan, and that there's some hard results or hard evaluations or whatever that we do ask for some specific commitments, and I think we got that. So we did talk also about the Shape Stratford project, and about an upcoming meeting with the Honourable Lawrence Macaulay. I'll be meeting with him on Friday. Chief Administrative Officer and myself and Deputy Mayor will be meeting to discuss town priorities and what make some plans for the future. Yeah, there was some discussion about how we could better engage newcomers, and there were a number of good suggestions there. So any comments or questions on the meeting?
Mr. Mayor, I was going to bring this up prior to us adjourning for the day, because I neglected to bring this up during the planning and development portion of the agenda, but I want to extend a sincere thank you to Wendy Watts, who's present with us here tonight, for her work on the Shape Stratford project to date. It's a very large endeavor with what I would suggest has already been a very positive impact on people's perception of planning, as well as the need and the requirements for us to look at the best use of land here in Stratford. And I think it's, again, timing is everything, and I don't think it's necessarily coincidental that we passed some of the resolutions we did tonight under our planning and development portion of the agenda. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Shape is going through the process it's going through now. And so certainly I really appreciate Wendy's input to date on Shape, as well as it's helped inform us in our discussions around the resolutions here tonight. So I really just wanted to, I didn't want to say, give up that opportunity before saying thank you to Wendy.
I might be the one sending out a lot of the information to you guys, but it's certainly a team effort, and,
Sure.
and I couldn't do what I'm doing with it without everybody else's support, so it's not.
But you get the
I
credit.
appreciate that,
So
but
there you
yeah, I'm sharing it.
No, thanks a lot, Wendy. We're really lucky to have you. Anything else, Councillor Jackson, that as co-chair or deputy chair that you?
No, I think the other thing that I took away from that meeting was the great discussion we had on how well the town staff and councillors, probably more past than present, because we're just new to this again, but the relationships that we do have with folks in the community, and how, we're trying to find ways to help better our relationships out there, but I know that the residents that we have, we're fortunate to have the folks around that table that we do. They're very complimentary around how our staff deals with various levels of government, with our external stakeholders, and so it was nice to hear that, and we're going to do our part. I know some of the councillors that were here before, and some of us that are back and new to continue that, but it was nice to hear from the community that they see the positive relationships we have out there and the benefits that we have, and the types of like new business coming to town. We have like really large investments in our town in recent years, so it's nice to see that all this work does pay off, and I do thank all the staff, and while we're thanking staff, I want to thank Mary too, because there's 612 pages in this package, and I've done this stuff, this type of work, putting together stuff for other boards, and it's not easy, but it speaks to the relationship that our staff have with our residents, with our committees. They actually go to these meetings feeling like they will make an impact, and I think that's where that committee, the change in that committee really is going to pay off. We do have a lot of folks around the table that have different experiences that we didn't have maybe on a committee before. So, and some new folks that just we met during the election campaign that decided to put their name forward and help out with the town on committee. So, it was nice to hear that from the committee.
Thanks for pointing that out. I think it's really important. I think we do have the representatives as the representatives of the town and of our respective wards, and we do have a good relationship with, and the staff have a good relationship with the working, with the people that they work with on a daily basis. And I know we've had the two MLAs, newly elected MLAs, have reached out to meet with us on a regular basis, and we will be looking forward to that. And so I think, and at the federal level, we do have a good relationship. We meet periodically with our Member of Parliament. So I think that stands us in good stead, those relationships, and we really want to sustain them and nurture them and make sure that we take good care to make sure they're kept really in good shape. So thanks for that. Okay, that was my report. Is there any other comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to human resources. Any reports on human resources? No? Okay. Any inquiries by members of council on anything about the town?
Yeah, I have a small one. I guess this is for you, Dale. I'll put you up to the microphone for a second. On the Stratford Road there, and I know they have come up. These two residents, Doug and Trudy Molno, have requested meetings, had meetings with the town. They're at 181 Stratford Road, where their house is located. There's a brand new build there next door on the 5.5 acres of land that borders their property. And I guess my question is, from the back of that new property by a greenway, there's 15 feet until the Molno's property line. And I walked it with them and looked at this, and it really it seems like almost every resident can look directly into their house. It's very, very close. I was just wondering if the builder has in their plans, has any plans for a hedgerow, for a fence, for trees between the Molno's property and the edge of the Greenway property?
I'm not actually sure. Sarah, you aware of that at all?
If I could interject,
Yeah.
CAO Crosby and myself met with the Molinos, and we did agree to look into this and to see what can be done.
Okay.
We encourage them to discuss it with the adjacent landowner as well, the developer, and
Okay.
and see if they can work out a mutual agreement or mutual satisfactory way forward, because it is something that I think wasn't anticipated. It's because of the difference in elevation between the two properties.
Right.
And they didn't anticipate that when the original plans were put forward. So it's something that I guess is just due to a misunderstanding, and it will hopefully be, I know that staff are going to look into it, Jeremy, and I think you're probably, it's on the list to get done, and it will get done. So look forward to having that resolved as best it can be resolved.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't privy to the meeting, I just.
Yeah, it was just something they requested. We didn't know what the
Yeah.
meeting was about.
Yeah.
The meeting came about very quickly, and we met with them, was about last week? Yeah, so late last week, it was
Okay.
Friday, I believe. Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
discussing from prior conversations with
Yeah.
landowners, and it just brought it forth, so I wasn't privy to that recent meeting, but anyway, I just thought I'd ask, so Sarah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's anything there, but I'm sure there'll be more discussions.
There's nothing on their plans currently that indicate that they will be planting trees. There's nothing in our bylaw that also requires them to do so.
Right.
If you look at kind of the first development, they do tend to plant trees kind of in the backyards of, so they may have plans to plant trees, but it's nothing that they've disclosed to us.
Right. If you look at their development on the corner of Kenlock Road and Stratford Road, they have put like 5-year-old trees up, but they're like 50, 75 feet apart. One tree, 50, 75 feet, another tree, 50, 75 feet, another tree. So there's certainly, there's not a lot of trees that they put into that development. And there was a whole hedgerow of trees between the former property of the Hunters and Molyneux, and all those trees were taken down. So I think what Doug Molyneux wants to say, like, if they carry on what historically they've done, putting one tree and then 50 feet another tree, that will do nothing to create some privacy for them. So hopefully this can get worked out. And I just thought I'd bring it forth, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other inquiries? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor.
And I just got these comments made to me very recently, and I'm going to forward them in more detail to Councillors Glant and Jackson, as it's actually in their area, and as well as to Councillor Chandler as the Chair of Recreation, Culture and Events, and I'll CC our CAO as well. But one comment was in relation to the Bunbury rink. It's a very well, very highly utilized area, even as a ball hockey rink, because it's enclosed with the boards. And of course, this wasn't a great year for ice making, and ice wasn't in there this year, but it's always busy, it's a very active area, and people go in and often clear the snow out themselves. But one of the comments was made was in relation to the state of the pavement in the parking area. There's a lot of mud. Kids who are going in and getting their skates on and stuff, they're getting back to the car, you know, large amounts of mud on them. But anyway, I guess something, maybe a strategy developed down the road for more utilization of that area. And one of the comments was that as one group is playing and other groups are waiting to get on the surface, even if it is the ball hockey surface, if there's no ice, it would be beneficial to have some sort of a pad with a target of some sort, maybe a net or a backstop, where other kids can go on and kind of play while they're waiting and take some shots and that sort of thing, just to better utilize the area in general. But again, this is just to bring up as a preliminary matter for food for thought, and I'll provide more detail.
got it on the record now, so.
Yeah, and the other was in Starling Park, and again, in your areas, they were talking about the pathway. You know, the equipment in the park is very nice, and it looks, you know, it's very well maintained, but the pathway itself is not. And one resident suggested that either the pathway be better maintained, re-gravelled, or taken out and grassed over, which, you know, I think would be fine. It's not a extremely high traffic area as the pathway goes, but it's just, it's not a very aesthetically pleasing setup there now. And again, I'm only bringing these up, I did refer these people to Councillors Glant and Jackson, but they knew me from previous lives and work lives, and felt more comfortable in bringing it up, so I'm just bringing it up here, and I'll forward the information in more detail by way of email to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
We already talked about that last week, Councillor Dowling, about the extending the parking, the pavement in the where the rink is, right? So Jeannie has that now, and so we'll see what happens there.
Okay, any other inquiries by any other member of council?
I just have one, I'm sorry, I don't want to, it's going to be quick. Just on Bunbury Road, the light, we talked about it with the youth center there, the light across from the community gardens across into
Okay.
how dangerous it is. We're looking for a light. Hopefully MLA-elect Burridge is listening, and MLA-elect Redmond's listening. We're looking for a light to go across that area, like a flashlight, like no frills, like going across that area. It's pretty dangerous there. And we currently hold a lot of events there, and I've talked to a lot of people in that area, and they were just, you know, have to have something done. But I think we talked to the province already, Jeremy, right? And are we still in conversation with them?
We've had previous conversations, and there is another crosswalk, like you said, up near No Frills, but there are some issues with the turn there, and some safety concerns, but we can revisit that with them for sure and see. I know that the youth center is pretty adamant that they're going to get a crosswalk there, so we'll keep working towards that.
Yeah. I think they're putting some kind of small little protest together.
I think they're going to get politically mobilized, and this is going to be an exercise in community involvement and political action. So, yeah, I
Can you
I
make
look
sure to
forward
let
to
us
that.
know when that happens? I mean, I think we should be there. I think
Oh, yeah.
we should support them whatever way we can. They allow you help.
Oh, yeah.
Like safety issues, like you said, we do have a lot of we do have a lot of events there. The community gardens are there. The crosswalk up at the No Frills it's a different kind of area altogether, to be honest.
Yeah.
So if there's a way of us, especially when they're mobilized the way they are, and it's a big deal. So yeah, I'd like to be there.
There's two things. They want the better lighting, and they want the crosswalk moved to where it's more logical. So those are the two things that they're looking for.
It's very dangerous, because I was there volunteering with my vest and everything on, lights, and
Oh, I know.
you
Yeah,
almost
it's
get run
dark.
over
Yeah,
when they had
it's very
events
dark.
there, and
Yeah.
it's pretty dangerous, but I can see where they're coming from, and a couple of residents mentioned to me, especially with the gardens over the cross street,
Yeah.
and they use that area for parking too, right? Supplement parking for events that happen at the youth center, so everybody's coming across the street there. It's very busy at times when there are events
Yeah.
being held.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay. Oh, sorry.
What's really interesting.
Hope this is not about Ward 3.
What's really interesting about this is that it was an initiative raised by the Youth Council. As you mentioned, you know, community engagement and mobilization. It's just a fantastic organization, and there's so much capacity for the members of the youth center to learn about politics from all levels, and you know, I look forward to their engagement, and you know, we take it very seriously. It is a legitimate concern, and the fact that it was raised by our youth council is all the more impressive. And you know, like I say, it's for them to be engaged at such a high degree of engagement at such a young age is a testament to the value of the group itself and the leadership that's involved with the group, and including Jeremy here as well as part of the leadership team.
Yeah, I think Dwayne Pino is also a key person there too, yeah. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay, any other inquiries by members of council? If not, we'll move to, I'm gonna go quickly here before somebody else jumps in. We'll move quickly now to other committees, Stratford Seniors Complex.
I don't have the report in front of me, but everything, their meeting this month was canceled. We're meeting next week, and it's still, everything is ongoing. There's no, we had a waiting list there, and the place is full. Everything's
Yeah,
working out
we have a
well.
new administrator or a new,
Yeah, with a new,
person, maintenance person, I guess, yeah,
maintenance guy.
that's great, yeah.
Everything's working really well.
Yeah, that's
It's
good.
nice to see at the table, too, people voicing their opinions and everything else. It's nice to see that we have that in the town. It's a
Yeah.
really great resource.
Yeah, and the Stratford Connects demo that was done to really connect people like seniors that might be living alone
That's right.
and suffer from social isolation or whatever, gives them an opportunity to connect with other
Yep.
people in the community.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's great.
Like, for example, in Fiona, they had their own generator there. They were all, everything well
Yeah.
planned over there. It's really nice to have,
Yeah.
during the storm, they had their own generator and weren't without power at all in those, how many days, 10, 15, 22
Yeah.
days?
No, as well,
Nice to see.
it's good. Okay, any appointments to committees? Anything to report there? No proclamations? Any other business anyone would like to raise at this time? If not, we'll call for a motion for adjournment.